virtual regular meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, March 14th, 2022 will be called to order at 7 p.m. At this time, would everyone join us for the invocation given by Alderman Shannemeyer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Everyone can please bow your heads if you choose to do so. Please watch over us this evening to help us make decisions for the benefit of our community and each other, and maybe we work together in the spirit of cooperation.
Amen. Right. Let's yell out this on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America,
to
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. That was better than last time. Appreciate it, everyone. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Here.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Here.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Here.
Alderwoman Pendle-Charles.
Here.
Here.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Present.
Alderman Shannemeyer.
Here.
Alderman Gay. Alderman Savage.
Present.
Alderman Arnett.
Present.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the first item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
This time I entertain a motion to postpone the City Council citation for Watermark Cruises for their 50th anniversary. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendle-Charles. I didn't hear her. She said okay. Alderwoman Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderman Shannemeyer.
Aye.
Okay, that's everybody.
Aye.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is ID 3422, City Council citation, Joanne Vaughn.
Thank you. If we could bring Joanne forward so we can thank her for all her incredible work that she has done for the city, making this a huge arts city and supporting the cultural growth of Annapolis. Hi, Joanne. How you doing?
Hi, how are you, Mr. Mayor?
Great. So I'm going to just read the citation to you, and then if you could say a couple of words.
Okay.
All set. On behalf of the residents of the city of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you the City Council citation in celebration of your retirement from the Maryland Federation of the Arts, MFA. Congratulations. During your tenure over 14 years, you led MFA from a small organization hosting 7 exhibitions a year with a local membership of 250 to a mainstay in the Maryland art scene, hosting more than 25 exhibitions annually with a membership of 750 arts and art patrons across America. During this time, your numbers don't tell the entire story. You have worked and have exposed countless Annapolis residents and visitors, found sponsors and patrons to support the effort, and partnered with nonprofits and institutions to enhance art offerings in our city. We thank you for your work and for your love of the arts, and the city of Annapolis thanks you. Best of luck in your retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, members of the City Council. As you know, Annapolis has become a very artistic town. In fact, the city is rated a 94 on a scale of 100 for arts vibrancy by this Cultural Data Project, a data collection organization sponsored by the Pew Charitable Trust. Many Annapolitans, especially the mayor, and many organizations, including Art in Public Places and the Arts Council of Anne Arundel County, have been instrumental in advancing the arts in Annapolis. For 59 years, Maryland Federation of Arts has been the leading visual arts organization in Annapolis. And I'm extremely grateful to be honored by the City Council for my part in making Annapolis artsy. I hope you stop by Circle Gallery on State Circle to meet Ann Cole, the new executive director, who's absolutely spectacular. Or I'll see you at Paint Annapolis in June when MFA puts hundreds of international artists in the city streets to interpret our historic town in oil, watercolor, pastel, and acrylic. And many thanks for the honor. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Joanne. Thank you. You've got to come down to City Hall and grab this now whenever you can. Thank
Will
you.
do. Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is ID 3522, City Council Citation, Lawrence L. Harris, Jr.
Thank you. Could we move Mr. Harris forward, please?
So moved.
We have Mr. Harris Jr. Is that right? Sorry. Okay. So thank you for all that you have done with your volunteerism, Mr. Harris. We truly appreciate the many, many years that you have given to this city. You have definitely earned this citation. On behalf of the residents of the City of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you this City Council citation in recognition of the life and contributions of Melvin Wilkins from 1939 to 2020. Over the years, Mel spent thousands of hours volunteering on environmental and watershed restoration projects in Annapolis.
Mr. Mayor, I think you got the wrong person.
Lawrence.
Mr. Harris.
Lawrence Harris. And Mr. Harris is in front of you, sir. Mr. Wilkins.
Sorry about that, Lawrence. I know we know each other, so forgive me on that.
That's fine. Not a problem, Mr. Mayor. That's all good.
This is how they were organized. What I meant to say was, in recognition of more than 14 years of service to the City of the Annapolis as a former chair and vice chair of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, as a member of this board that is not only critical to the operations of restaurants and bars and retail establishments, your tenure on the ABC board ensured community standards were upheld. Having served under 4 City of Annapolis mayors, you navigated the memberships of this critical board with diplomacy and grace under pressure. As a lifelong resident of Parole, you have also served the community as a past president of the Community Health Center at Parole and served as former president of the Parole Improvement Association. Your civic contributions have greatly improved life for the residents of the City of Annapolis. We thank you and your family for your service. Please enjoy your retirement. You have certainly earned it, Lawrence. If you would like to say a few words, we'd love to hear from you. And a big thank you. Round of applause, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, to all, good evening. I am delighted and humbled to be the recipient of this very prestigious award relating to my volunteer services with the City of Annapolis. I have had the distinct privilege of serving on 2 city boards in the past several years. The Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, or ABCB, and the Charter Revision Commission, which completed its task in 2021. In the year 2008, I was asked to serve on the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board and was sworn in on a beautiful summer day by Mayor Ellen Moyer. I continued to serve on this board under 3 additional mayors. I found this volunteer duty to be a very rewarding experience. When I became chairman of this body, I then found it to be rewarding and challenging as well. I took great pride in the way the ABCB conducted its responsibilities and the professional and courteous manner that was employed while interacting with the public. I wish to express my appreciation for the support of all my former ABC associates who served with me over many years, as well as city staff members who supported the board during our regularly scheduled and unscheduled sessions. Finally, I wish to thank Alderwoman Rhonda Pendell Charles for her acknowledgement and nomination for this award. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. And you too will have to come down to City Hall and pick this up whenever you are free. You've got a lot of time on your hands now, you're retired. And I promise I won't give you the wrong one like I just did. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harris. You've been a blessing and a great benefit to not only Ward 3, but the entire city of Annapolis. And we applaud you for your decades of service, all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is ID 4922, City Council Citation, Melvin Wilkins.
It's his sister.
And we have, is it Lammy? I'm sorry, this isn't Laura. Laurie? Hi, Laurie. Thank you so much for doing this for us. We truly appreciate you being here tonight. So on behalf of the residents of the City of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you this City Council citation in recognition of the life and contributions of Melvin Wilkins, who lived from 1939 to 2020. Over the years, Mel spent thousands of hours volunteering on environmental and watershed restoration projects in Annapolis and Arundel County. He mentored countless environmental activists. He raised more than $9 million in grant funds, starting with a sensory garden at ARC of Central Chesapeake, where he used his plants to interact with the sensory perception parts of the brain in developmentally disabled individuals. He assisted in the conversion of the old radio station into Chesapeake's Children's Museum and created a nature trail with English and Spanish signage. Mel oversaw the initial restorations of Black Creek Nature Park and the installations of several stormwater management features there. He founded Spar Creek Conservancy. He loved his work with churches, children, and the environment. He is missed, but his legacy lives on. This city is much better for him being here. Thank you so much. If you'd like to say a few words, Laurie, it's a little round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Look, I'm going to already tear up. Thank you for this award and honoring my father. He loved doing what he did to help your city environmentally. It was a project that he loved dearly. I'm not much of a speech person, so that's probably about all that I have to say. Thank you very much.
We truly appreciate him and his whole family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Yes, Alderman Gay.
Thank you very much. It's also great to hear the architect behind that site. As I walked it for 3 years to Bates Middle School from my grandmother's on Hilltop Lane. So I love to hear that your father was the architect behind that, and it still serves our community till this day.
Yeah, I actually got him started with what he did. The sensory garden was at the Arc of Central Chesapeake, and I actually worked for the Arc of Central Chesapeake and talked him into doing the sensory garden, and it took off from there.
That's great. Alderman Savage and Alderman Pendell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just want to echo some of the remarks that were read because I didn't personally get a chance to work with your father too often, but as somebody in the environmental community, his reputation certainly preceded him. And I knew of him and I knew of his projects and his leadership in the city. And so I just want to say, I think he should be really proud because he certainly has left an incredible legacy here in the city for everyone. And he's still an example that many of us are trying to follow. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Pendell Charles.
Yes, thank you, Ms. One out, but at least you can hear me. Ms. Laurie, thank you so much. I want to bring to your attention, your dad was the impetus in many ways of the Stormwater Center that we had in Parole in the Chambers Park. And we'd never really had anything environmentally of that type and nature, but he was the one who pushed it and shoved it, and it happened. And so we are forever grateful for all the work that he did for us and how on that special and unprecedented project. So thank you so very much.
Well, he was a person to get things done, that's for sure. If he wanted it done, it got done.
Yes.
Alderman Tierney. Tierney. But you're muted.
Yeah, hi. I did all the comments previously made. I was going to ask if I could have a copy of the citation so that I could frame it and put it up at the Children's Museum. I thought that would be appropriate.
Absolutely.
I'll pick it up.
Great idea. I'm sure he's looking down on us all now, Laurie. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Sir, the next item on the agenda is City Council citation, Annapolis Green 15th anniversary.
Okay, we've got everybody here. Maggie, Albia.
Hi.
Josh. Okay, well, welcome everybody. I think we've been trying to give this to you for a while, maybe, but thank you for being here and thank you for all that you do to make this city so much better and so much cleaner and greener and all that stuff. So on behalf of the residents of the city of Annapolis, we're pleased to confer upon you all the City Council citation in recognition and celebration of your 15th anniversary. Congratulations. Over the years, you have helped to enlighten and connect Annapolis residents and visitors to critical environmental issues in order to help people live more responsibly and create a more beautiful, thriving community. Initiatives include campaigns like Reclaim the Cork, Electric Car Showcase. Did someone say electric? No Butts in the Bay, Plastic Free Annapolis, and your most recent partnership with the city, composting at Truxton Park, which has been hugely successful. Your monthly green drinks was and will be again a popular networking opportunity, as well as an opportunity to help people quench their thirst for eco-friendly options among eco-friendly colleagues and friends to be. We hope that you can continue your education and advocacy efforts. Annapolis and her residents are better off for having Annapolis Green. Congratulations for 15 years. And if anyone would like to step up and talk, that would be awesome.
Thanks so much. I just want to say one thing. It's so amazing that there was a citation for Mel Wilkins, because it was Mel Wilkins who actually got me into the environmental world. And I will always be grateful for that. And he was really a force of nature and a force for nature at the same time. But thank you so much for honoring Annapolis Green. I hope that Lynn is on the call here, Lynn Forsman. She and I founded Annapolis Green 15 years ago, and we founded it really basically with Green Drinks, and Green Drinks is back. It'll be March 24th at Homestead Gardens, and we hope that you will all come and see just how many environmental voices there are in our area. So thank you so much for this. Also on the call, you see Maggie Hughes, who is the new 3 months now, executive director. I have stepped back from the organization. I'm helping out a little bit, but really Maggie and Lynn are in charge. And we look forward to continuing our partnership with the city in lots of different ways. I think that the social aspect of Annapolis Green is really important to get the word out to people about any number of items, topics, whether it's plastic reduction or the climate change problems that we're seeing already. There's nothing like person to person. So we're really happy that we can come back now in person and get together and move the needle along and get everybody on the mitigation and adaptation program. So
Hi, everybody.
For everything, Elvia, and of course your partner in crime.
Hi, guys.
On the screen.
There she is.
We can't leave without Lynn adding something whenever you would like to speak. Lynn, go ahead.
Thank you so much, everyone. How lucky am I to be able to, call my passion my work. Every day is enjoyable. Trying to influence, trying to get the city to do more than you already are. Elvie and I always used to say how fabulous it would be if our job was done and our work was over. Well, I don't think that's ever really going to be the case, and good for us, because we hope to always be an inspiration and bringing new things that can be done and in a positive, creative way, and really making a difference. Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay.
We wish we could be with you in person, but come on the 24th.
Getting pretty close. So we're excited to see everybody in person. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, I think Maggie wants to speak.
Sorry, Alderman Gay, was that you?
Oh, I thought Maggie wanted to speak.
That's okay. I think this is really just a celebration of all the work that Lynn and Elvia have done over the last 15 years. I'm so happy to, of course, be working with Annapolis Green, and here's to 15 more. How's that? Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is petition reports and communications, beginning with update from the mayor.
So good evening. I want to acknowledge our Annapolis City Attorney, Mike Lyles, who will be recognized by his alma mater, Columbus Law School at Catholic University, with a Diversity Leadership Alumni Award later this week. Mike was nominated for this award by the Black Law Students Association. That has to be a great honor to know that the next generation of lawyers admire your work, Mr. City Attorney. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate the acknowledgement.
I know you like being in the spotlight.
That's me.
Annapolis Recreation and Parks is hosting a few events. We'd like to tell you about Annapolis Hoops Tour. On Friday, March 18th, has 2 free youth clinics at Eastport at 3 p.m. and Robinwood at 4:30 with White Chocolate, Randy Gill, leading up to a Hoops versus NAM charity game at Pip Moyer at 6 p.m. The Hoop Bus was started in Venice Beach, California. It's very cool to use mobile basketball workshops as a social engagement platform. Please come along to that event. On March 26th, they host the giveaways for Pass, Pick and Play. This is a great opportunity for those of you who have youth sports superstars in the making to get some gently pre-loved sporting equipment that has been donated by the community. Many of these items, and I've seen a bunch of them, are like new. On April 2nd, Recs and Parks will be hosting a community forum to get input from the public about the kinds of recreation, park, and programming people are interested in. A lot of good ideas bubble up from crowdsourcing, and I hope that they get a good response and get some new ideas. And then on April 9th, they've got the adult Easter egg hunt at night. Bring your basket and a flashlight. It has a $10 pre-sale or $15 at the event. The eggs are filled with prizes and it's fun. Springtime, it's a favorite activity that is returning after COVID to the city of Annapolis. Come on down for that. Speaking of favorite activities, returning to Annapolis, we had a tremendous turnout for the Annapolis St. Patrick's Day Parade and Shamrock the Dock. There was apparently a lot of pent-up demand for this activity to return to our city, and we could tell that by the volume of people in the streets on Sunday March 6th. I think it was a huge success. I thank our public safety team for managing the crowds and keeping people safe. And I thank the organizers for their work in running a smooth event and for their cleanup afterwards. Speaking of parades, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Parade and African Diaspora will take place on April 2nd. The Hillman Garage may be closed at that point, so I urge everyone hoping to attend or participate in the event for the parade to have a plan for parking. There will be free shuttles and ferries at the top of Main Street. In fact, we have a parade at least once a month from now to Independence Day. May 30th is the Memorial Day Parade. June 4th is Annapolis Pride. June 18th is Juneteenth. And of course, the 4th of July. Later this month, we also have Maryland Day festivities around the city and county. Check out marylandday.org to learn more. We are also welcoming back the Annapolis Film Festival from March 31st to April 3rd. I've seen the banners hanging in downtown. I love this event. I look forward to the curated films that the organizers have selected for us. They have 70 films over 4 days. This is the 10th year and the tickets are now on sale. They've been closed for a couple of years, so it'd be great for us all to come out and support this event. It's a very unique event for the city, and it's such a great way to see the city because all the venues are within walking distance. This Saturday is the grand opening of Historic Annapolis's newest exhibit on 99 Main Street. Annapolis, an American Story is a unique partnership with our significant heritage sites and museums around the city and is an attempt to tell a wider and broader history of Annapolis. It is a collaboration to include more voices and make our history more approachable. Partners include the Annapolis Maritime Museum, the Banneker Douglas Museum, St. John's College, the Naval Academy, Maryland State House Gallery, and the historic Annapolis sites in downtown. We are a city with amazing stories to tell, and this exhibit opens the door on a broad array of storytelling narratives. Please come to 99 Main Street and check it out. Speaking of partnerships with Historic Annapolis, I was very excited to accept the transfer of the Burtis House on Prince George Street from the State of Maryland Department of Natural Resources on March 8th. I thank the members of the council who attended our signing ceremony, Alderman Tierney, Alderman O'Neill, and Alderman Finlayson, as well as city officials and dignitaries from the state of Maryland. Burtis House and the docks in front of her are the keystone parcel in our plans for reimagining City Dock. It is also the last remaining residential parcel of the working waterfront in downtown that was known as Hell Point. Working with the National Park Service, Chesapeake, Preservation Maryland, and Historic Annapolis, they will soon endeavor on a rehabilitation and elevation of the structure. We look forward to what they will do with the space, what we will do, how we tie it into programmable space where we are planning for City Dock and how we utilize the additional dock space and waterfront. I want to thank David Gerald and Ashley Leonard for their work on the negotiations to get this building surplus to the state. As I said at the event, it is a small house, but for the city of Annapolis, this house is huge. Finally, we will be back in chambers for city council meetings on April 11th. I know we all look forward to seeing our residents in person again. So thank you, everybody. So let's carry on with the meeting. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is reports by committee.
Okay, Alderman O'Neill.
Sure. The Transportation Committee met on March 9th, 2022. At that meeting, our topic of discussion was 04021, and the committee recommended favorably as amended. Our next meeting is April 13th, 2022 at 4 p.m.
Thank you. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last meeting for Environmental Matters, we recommended favorably to 2 appointments for Mr. John Henry Turner to the Conservancy Board and also Mr. Harold Siegel to the Port Wardens. We also recommended favorably Ode 3821 with amendments. That's the illicit discharge legislation. We recommended favorably 04021, which is the capital budget and capital improvement program, 100% mobility plan, electric mobility plan. But we did postpone the mooring permits legislation because the harbor master is still working on that with the Maritime Advisory Boards. We're going to give them some additional time. And that is, I think the next meeting is, actually, I don't know the date for the next meeting, it looks like. So with that, that wraps my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Tierney, then Alderman Schandelmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Speaking of special houses, the Finance Committee meeting met March 2nd, and we recommended favorably fund transfer 4-22, which transferred money from Capital Reserve City Facility Improvements revenue to the Maynard Burgess expense due to additional landscaping and archaeological and some subcontractor pricing. We also recommended favorably, as amended by the Finance Committee, 040-21, the 100% electric mobility plan, which you'll see tonight. Thank you. Oh, the next meeting is Wednesday, March 16th at 10:30 a.m.
Thank you, Alderman Schandelmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Economic Matters will be meeting on the 16th at 6:30 p.m. It's going to be a pretty light agenda, but we're going to be hearing 01022.
Thank you. Any other reports? Appreciate all your hard work on that. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please. Oh, sorry,
Mr. Mayor?
I didn't see any hands, sorry. Now I see a hand. Alderman Charles and Alderman Gay.
Go ahead, Alderman Gay. Go right ahead, Alderman Gay.
Very quick. Housing and Human Welfare meets next Monday at 6:30.
Thank you. Alderman Pindell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening to everyone. As many of you know, more often than not, I do not talk a lot or ask a lot of questions at city council meetings and work sessions, less than often than many on this dais. I'm generally fairly quiet when some others are not a problem at all. In fact, I enjoy listening to all of you, and I have learned a lot. However, I have asked our mayor to give me some additional time to speak at length this evening, and he has graciously allowed me to do so. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the Honorable Mayor and Honorable Annapolis City Council, good evening. Especially over the past 2 months, I have received an inordinate number of emails and verbal concerns from residents from all over our city, in particular regarding public safety here in Annapolis. From the Clay Street community and corridor to President's Hill, to Parole, to downtown, to Annapolis Gardens, to the Spar Creek area, to Germantown, Homewood, to parts of Ward 4, to all of Eastport, from African Americans, whites, Hispanics. Frankly, the areas and communities that have been touched and the comments themselves have run the gamut. And practically no ward has been immune. I have been approached with inquiries while in line at the post office, underneath the hairdryer at the hairdresser, in the produce section in the grocery store, waiting for takeout at local restaurants, picking up my mail at my mailbox in front of my home, in the pew at churches that are open, at viewings, wakes, and funerals at our local funeral homes, and every other public place that you can imagine. These concerns are thought-provokingly riveting. As your City Council Public Safety Standing Committee Chair, it is my obligation to answer all of these inquiries, especially those in writing, in great detail. Frankly, it has gotten to the point where cutting and pasting has become my specialty. Unfortunately, I have become much too adept at it. After thinking about this, especially over the past 18 months, I indicated to our mayor recently that it is time, and it is very appropriate for me as soon as possible tonight, in fact, to provide to my city council colleagues and mayor, as well as to our viewing audience, the very first State of Annapolis Public Safety Address. And I have titled it, Who is Accountable? What time is it? What are we talking about? What is our focus? What are our priorities? Where do we stand? What do we stand for? First, let me start off by saying no police department nor police officer is perfect. In fact, no one who walks on this earth is perfect. So instead, we all try to strive for excellence. With that backdrop, I will highlight just some of the emails that I've received regarding public safety. These emails have been directed to me and oftentimes to Ward 1 Alderwoman Tierney as our Finance Standing Committee Chair, and to Ward 2 Alderwoman O'Neill, and a couple of them to our Ward 8 Alderman Arnett. Here are some snippets from some of these emails that we have received, and any actual quotes are extremely lengthy as well as very disturbing and troubling. Residents focusing on tragic shooting resulting in a 15-year-old boy becoming paralyzed and a young girl seriously injured. However, city officials continue to discuss high-dollar items for our city. Residents indicating that the police recently told a citizens group that they could really use some funding to upgrade cameras that may help in catching and prosecuting these shooters. So the residents asked, why not propose that these funds be used to fund high priority items for our hardworking police force? Residents noting the usual rash of bureaucracy, but also noting that it would be refreshing to see the council and ideally the mayor focus on something that may make a real difference in our community. The efforts of residents and being very frustrated with many on the city council appearing to not care and focusing their efforts on other priorities. Gunshots being heard by residents and coming over Spar Creek late in the evenings. Residents' home was broken into while sleeping. Residents noting that our police force being well below adequate staffing levels for a variety of reasons. And so the crime and shootings continue. The city council, with the exception of a few, seems to turn a blind eye on this and focus on other issues. Residents mentioning a variety of issues, some being the peace initiative that would have further handcuffed our police force in doing their jobs. Our city having issues, but not us being like Minneapolis, but our city having a long history of police and residents working hand in hand during tense times. Residents question the time spent by the council debating what appears to be an exercise in, frankly, nonsense. Repeated requests for noise ordinances, speed cameras, and stepped up enforcement of motorbikes and vandals on Main Street, all to no avail. And if we can endeavor to build a new garage and city dock, why are these issues so difficult? Residents noting that a slew of ordinances that appear to continue to give away city revenues and limit regulations on restaurants and bars, while police are tired of dealing with bar fights and drunks at 2 a.m. Most concerning to residents are the tragic and continued shootings in the city so very near homes, coupled with the serious drug issues many of our less fortunate residents deal with every day. Residents applauding the efforts of Chief Jackson and his staff, but despite all their hard work, there's no question that for our city of our size and complexity, state capital, USNA, et cetera, we're severely understaffed, and the majority of our city council seems to have other financial priorities in mind. Hoping nevertheless that our council's Public Safety Committee Chair and Finance Committee Chair will continue their good work in assuring our public safety departments are adequately staffed, and that our residents and respective organizations will continue to be very vocal about what is occurring in Annapolis. Urging all other residents to show up live or virtual at city council meetings and testifying about concerns during the open comments period of the meetings. Residents sending us audio recordings of gunshots fired recently, which is very unnerving and frightening. Neighborhoods and neighbors seeking immediate responses. People in groups that residents say they will be contacting to follow up and alert on these issues. Ward 1 Alderman, Mayor's Office, Annapolis Police Department, President's Hill Association, Ward 1 Resident Association, State Delegates, State Senator, Governor's Office. Residents becoming increasingly worried and alarmed about the increase in gun violence and the plan to address it. Residents, nonetheless, who remain dedicated to the success and safety of our community, and hoping that gun violence does not become a new normal for our neighborhoods. So residents want to do whatever they can to implore the city to take immediate, decisive, and major action to curb this violence. Residents are asking, what can they do? Are there any steps or actions they can take to support the city's initiatives? And if this violence continues and nothing changes, residents are going to start moving. New neighbors having gunshots recorded on their cameras, now twice since they recently moved in. Residents are asking for advice from us, which is appreciated by them and their neighbors. Residents who are worried and don't know what to do. Residents listing the recent gun violence that is affecting our city and neighborhoods. June 29th, 2021, graduate hotel shooting from Pleasant Street. October 14th, 2021, Pleasant Street shooting. December 24th, 2021, shooting on the corner of West Street and Calvert Street. February 12th, 2022, 2 shootings Saturday night, Oberry Court. February 17th, 2022, 2 gunshots fired, Oberry Court, Pleasant Street vicinity. 7:35 p.m. with a shooting audio attached. Residents noting rising crime rates. Residents indicating that they have camera systems not working in neighborhoods plagued with gun violence, and noting that this is a very poor way to manage priorities. Residents noting that bullets will fly, kids will continue to die, community centers will continue to close early because of lack of funding, and there will be no police at the substations. Multiple families hearing a barrage of gunfire in the late evening hours between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., sounding like a full magazine of bullets being fired, but it being tough to pinpoint the exact location of the incidents. Residents noting that it could be coming from their community or possibly from Eastport, but it's tough to pinpoint just by sound. And unfortunately, only ever hearing the faint wail of a single police siren sometime after. Residents recognizing that these may be victimless incidents, but only due to luck. And residents again repeating the incident of children being shot in the Robinwood community. Young teenagers being shot in mid-February on Tyler Avenue. Gunshots on South Cherry Grove last fall during an apparent drive-by shooting. The death of an incoming midshipman's mother in front of the graduate before induction day, and on and on and on. Everyone seems to agree that it's a troubling trend that seems to get immediate attention, but there's no building pressure that results in tangible action. Residents clearly recognizing that their comments are definitely not meant to disparage our law enforcement, which they have the utmost respect for, but noting the increasingly difficult nature of their task. Residents offering a message to our city and are asking us, what are we planning to do to subdue this seemingly growing level of wanton violence in our city? Residents love their neighborhoods and communities and want to raise their children here in Annapolis, but this trend has them seriously considering moving to a place where they don't have to explain to their children that the sounds that they hear at night are not fireworks, but gunshots, and that nobody should have to do that. And no family or child should be put at risk because the right people are not being held accountable or responsible for their actions. The residents are asking, what can they do? Are there only any steps or actions that they can take to support the city's initiatives? Again, any advice is appreciated from the city to them and their neighbors. The residents indicate that they are worried about all of our city and they don't know what to do. Other questions that the residents are asking, should their neighborhood associations become more involved? What do we need from them as residents? Funding, petitions, testimony, and now tonight they say are more gunshots. And they ask, where's the police? Where are the plainclothes officers? The residents agree shooting is occurring 1 to 2 times per week and that this is unacceptable, that we must have change and action immediately. They notice the large uptick in violent crimes and that there seems to be linear relationship of poor policies, including mitigated police funding, available actions over frivolous and fruitless priorities. Residents say they want to support our efforts to procure additional resources and our collaborative approach. As residents, they appreciate all that our police department does to keep our communities safe, and they know that they will be contacting their representatives to request that they support more resources to help address these issues now. The residents wrote an email to Major Branford. They thanked him for the updates on the incident last year, as well as the overall actions of the police department as they address this increased violence. They know that over at least the last year, in their mind, it seems that there have been an increasing number of incidents, and the number of incidents involving guns have increased dramatically. They said that they keep telling their neighbors that it didn't used to be like this, that they really never heard any gunshots until last year. But the residents note that with the 2 homicides and numerous shootings last year, that this is becoming more pervasive. They want to support the police department's efforts to procure additional resources and their collaborative approach. As residents, they indicated that they appreciate all that he and the chief and their department do to keep their communities safe, and that they will be contacting their representatives to request they support more resources to help address these issues now. And the question that the residents continue to ask, and from a different perspective, what programs are in place to prevent crime? While our residents do agree that our police force needs adequate funding, they believe prevention is the key. City Council, this ends momentarily what we have received in emails for now. Whether these descriptions are totally accurate or not, nonetheless, they certainly paint a grim picture of our city, a city where we have 40,000 residents and 1 million visitors per year. Nevertheless, these are in fact our residents' reality. Yes, perception can be reality. We did receive an email, truly a glimmer of hope, from 2 residents. They were elated by the detailed response that I provided that crossed so many fronts about what the city is doing, so much more than what they were aware of. They noted that a lot of the root causes come down to what Chief Jackson talked about recently, addressing social issues. They were also pleased to see most every arrest description end with held without bond. They recognize that it's easy to criticize after every incident, and they indicated that they cringe at comments by some on social media that blame the mayor, staff, and police personally for every incident. Anyway, they indicated that they are ready to make a personal and sizable donation towards wherever it will address the biggest need, and to please let them know. They indicated that they are not able to donate much of their time. They likewise challenge others to step up and help the city in tangible ways as well. This email being from some residents who obviously truly care and in their own tangible way. The others that are mentioned in this email include all of us and all of you. This is just a snippet of what Alderwoman Tierney O'Neill and I have been receiving most recently. So these are the immediate questions that come to my mind. Who is accountable? What time is it? What are we talking about? What is our focus? What are our priorities? Where do we stand? What do we stand for? So after more cutting and pasting, this is the email that has gone out to many city residents when requesting details to their 5 legitimate inquiries and comments here. 1, we are becoming increasingly worried and alarmed about the increase in gun violence and the plan to address it. 2, this message is to ask you what we as a city are planning to do to subdue this seemingly growing level of wanton violence in our city. 3, and from a different perspective, what programs are in place to prevent crime? While I do agree that our police force needs adequate funding, I believe prevention is the key, ! 4, as residents, what can we do? Are there any steps or actions we can take to support the city's initiatives? 5, any advice is appreciated for us and our neighbors. We're worried about all of our city and we don't know what to do. In order to adequately and fully address these inquiries and comments, the following has been my response as your public safety chair and my CC to Alderwoman Tierney as our finance committee chair. My response is lengthy and detailed, and it needed to be, especially based upon the very serious nature of the emails that we received and the perceptions of our residents as it relates to all of us here, 9 of us sitting on this dais. Quote, thank you for your quote from me. Thank you for your email and your understandable concern for the safety in our communities. I have lived in the city and the parole community all of my life, 67 years, and my family has had a presence here in parole since the Civil War. And I can truly say that it has never been like this, ever. We all remain very concerned about the recent incidents, resulting in the steps and efforts that we continue to take toward making our city as safe as possible. Our Annapolis Police Department, APD, has become increasingly successful when it comes to investigating and solving crime in the city. For example, our County State's Attorney's Office has been involved in several of our more recent investigations from the very start, from the beginning, and they work hand in hand with the police throughout the life of our cases. Investigations of any type can remain ongoing. At an APD Eastport Civic Association, ECA, community meeting in December, and most recently our extremely comprehensive and robust monthly Public Safety Committee meetings, 2/7/22 and 2/16/22. Several approaches were mentioned are in the process of hopefully being implemented, including the continued use of our federal partners who have an inordinate amount of resources, but also possibly 2 new partners, namely the USNA Federal and the Maryland Department of General Services Police State. We're working on and hopefully and prayerfully securing MOUs with them. Also, a substation is being discussed, which would be located in a space in the Ancient City Lodge number 14 on Clay Street. As an aside, we are in the process of more aggressively recruiting officers so that we can bring our police force up to the size that is necessary in order to continue to combat crime, including hopefully fully staffing our 2 resource centers, Robinwood and Harbor House communities. We are now following a protocol which is working wonderfully well. When residents have questions about police cases, investigations, community policing, community outreach, etc., then the APD leadership will immediately schedule a meeting with the community association, usually at APD headquarters Office of Emergency Management Command Center, which usually lasts 2 to 3 hours since we want to be very comprehensive. We have done this for the NAACP and the Caucus of African American Leaders, Eastport Civic Association, and on a smaller scale, Ward 1 Residents Association. Also, the ECA's 3.5-hour meeting, which was extremely informative, can now be viewed on the city's TV and website, YouTube, APD Community Meeting, link attached. Please feel free to take a look at the ECA meeting on December if you have not already done so. Here are the breakdown of the timelines of this 3.5-hour meeting. Here is the link. Here are the topics with the time slots. 0 to 6 minutes, Chief, opening remarks and introductions. 6 to 9 minutes, Deputy Chief, opening remarks and introductions. 9 to 15 minutes, Lieutenant, administration. 15 to 17 minutes, crime analyst, data. 17 to 35 minutes, Lieutenant, crime investigations. 35 to 59 minutes, Captain, Commander, patrol. 59 minutes to 1 hour, 7 minutes, Chief, Maryland Police Reform Accountability Act. 1:07 to 1:15, Detective, cold cases. 1:15, Introduction to Community Policing. 1:15 to 1:27, Reentry Positive Impact Program. 1:27 to 1:45, Community Outreach. 1:45 to 3:22, Questions and Answers, for example, Crime Prevention and Enforcement, Community Policing, Recruitment and Retention, Substations, Resource Centers, Funding, What's Working, What Can the City Council Do to Help? Community Outreach, Getting the Data Information to Residents. Residents, the public can sign up to get city press releases, press conferences, cold cases, shots fired, community working together cooperatively, etc. Note, in between, all along the way, the Chief and Deputy Chief insert their comments as well. The YouTube Public Safety Standing Committee meetings on 2/7, 2 hours, and 2/16, 2 hours can be found on these links. If you haven't seen them already, they are very informative and enlightening, and they provide a very wide-ranging and global view on many different topics. Bottom line, we want the bad actors to know that if they commit crimes here in our city, we will come after them and find them, and that we will seek justice. As a now retired Baltimore City prosecutor after 20.5 years, and as our City Council's Public Safety Standing Committee Chair, I support these efforts. Just as a side note, in the Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office, I was the first supervisor and trainer for our county's current elected state's attorney, and I also regularly train recruits at the Baltimore Police Academy. Again, we have reached out to our federal partners, FBI, DEA, and the U.S. Marshals for assistance in what they have provided since Chief Jackson asked for assistance 2 years ago. Chief Jackson arrived here in Annapolis less than 3 years ago. Jointly, we have made dozens of arrests, seized money, drugs, and guns. Again, we're in the process of negotiating a MOU with the Maryland Capitol Police to bring some additional resources to the area. Additionally, regarding crime prevention, again, criminals know that we will find them and hold them accountable goes a long way toward prevention. Nevertheless, on balance, regarding crime prevention and taking a very holistic and comprehensive approach. For example, the APD has partnered with our Annapolis Recreation and Parks Department, ARPD, on many initiatives and levels, with more to come to combat youth violence. For over 12 years, the Annapolis Recreation and Parks mantra has been, healthy living starts here. In fact, just on February 24th, I met with ARPD Director, Mr. Archie Trader, along with the Annapolis Waterfront and Sailing School founder, our APD representative, the resident services manager for one of our subsidized housing communities, and 2 representatives from our mayor's office to discuss summer 2022 sailing lessons for some of our children from our very underserved city communities. We are very excited. For example, on Thursday night, February 24th, for 90 minutes, I met with the Annapolis Symphony Orchestra, ASO, staff and board members at Temple, Beth Shalom, and Arnold, where we will be starting on or about March the 8th, music and instrumental and later vocal opportunities for our children, starting at Eastport Elementary and then moving to Walter S. Mills Parole Elementary. I will be arranging for the ASL to come before a council meeting, probably in late April, early May, for no more than 10 minutes with a video and introductions about this program. Again, we are very excited. Much of our programming for our young people emanates from the ARPD and their decades-long partnership with the Housing Authority of the City of Annapolis, HACA, among many other partnerships. ARPD, including the REACH program, Little Free Libraries in Neighborhoods, basketball, tennis, various Stanton Community Center, and Annapolis Walk and surrounding areas programming. Boxing as supported by USNA, over 40 parks, including Truxton Park and Waterworks Park. New pool, trails, environmental, etc. ARPD publishes a wonderful weekly e-newsletter and publishes a quarterly hard copy newsletter for distribution. We have a plethora of programming in a variety of formats and venues that is ever evolving, depending upon the needs of our community. We are not static, and we are always in search of new ideas from anyone. See the weekly e-newsletters and the links provided here by our Recreation and Parks departments. I think that the extensive information that I've provided, including the over 7 hours of testimony information from our APD and the links provided, and on balance, holistic youth initiatives and opportunities, and those links as well, is indicative of what we are doing as a city to combat violence and other issues and matters. Additionally, we have an APD crisis response team, CRT, that was trained by the best CRT in the entire world, as publicly determined and announced about 3 years ago, namely Anne Arundel County Police Department's crisis response team. Again, if you or any communities would like to meet with city administration, including law enforcement and the Annapolis Recreation and Parks Department, then please let us know. We are happy to accommodate. Also, we are very pleased with the formation of our city's Office of Community Services in November 2020. We have on staff a licensed clinical social worker with a master's degree who was formerly with DSS, and a community services coordinator who was a native Annapolitan. Their basic responsibilities revolve around knowing and familiarizing themselves with the services that are available in our area to our residents and families, and making those necessary connections for and in support of our residents and families. Needless to say, they have been very busy. If you will recall from our last council meeting on February 14th, as I briefly indicated, I, along with Alderwoman Tierney and Senator Elverth, have been brainstorming about APD recruitment. We came up with some brilliant ideas. In fact, I just emailed the mayor and my colleagues in our Annapolis delegation, Senator and 2 delegates, Henson and Jones, with the details. I stated it on the record on February 14th, but here's what it is, and I plan to state it on the record at our February 28th council meeting with no more details, which I did. We would like to recruit at least 15 new officers, and here's how. An APD Police Foundation Scholarship designation to a recipient who wants to become an APD officer, 1. An APD Cadet Program pipeline, 1. Each of our state delegation recruiting via each of their scholarship programs a police recruitment designation, 3. An APD officer native of Annapolis who can recruit, 1. And our mayor and each alderperson recruitment from our individual wards, 9. So we can come up with at least 15 new recruits. Officially, it is my plan to roll this out on March 1st, which I did. Hopefully we will get there by July 1st. If we get more, then that's even better. I vividly recall when Dallas, Texas had their mass shooting several years ago, Police Chief Brown begged their homegrown residents to come forward and to become a part of their police force. And not only that, but that the department would specifically assign them to the communities where they grew up, where they already had a connection and a relationship with the residents there, a community where they were already trusted. In my humble opinion, this is an ideal recruitment strategy, and it is a true testimony to and the true definition of community policing, where some of us actually remember officer friendly. Again, we continually evolve and consider wide-ranging initiatives that we believe are appropriate and timely on behalf of our city. We continue to encourage our residents and business to, 1, tune into all of the meetings where these matters are being fully discussed on a variety of levels. 2, residents can certainly refresh their recollection by tuning into these meetings, including community meetings, anytime on YouTube or on Annapolis City TV. 3, request a community meeting at any time. And 4, request from our mayor's office via our city's website, and they are on our city's website as well, to be added to the press release email distribution list. Extremely informative and timely press releases come out at least daily, sometimes more than 1 per day. Again, at a meeting, all of this can be discussed and explained with more information provided. In my very humble opinion, I truly believe that we're doing much more than, quote, we hear you, unquote. But that's just my opinion. I certainly could be wrong. Frankly, I'm just one cog in the wheel, i.e. I'm not able to answer all of your questions nor provide you with all information and programming. So I would strongly suggest a meeting with our Annapolis Police Department and our Annapolis Recreation and Parks Department. These are just a few of many initiatives that the city continues to implement toward crime prevention, going hand in hand with youth and family opportunities. Again, funding is key for APD as well as for these additional initiatives for young people, which will give them alternative opportunities rather than involvement in criminal behavior. With that being said, I would encourage all of our residents to make your voices heard loud and clear, especially since we are now in deep discussions and deliberations regarding our city's fiscal year 2023 budget, which takes effect as of July 1st, 2022. Therefore, we sincerely hope that we can count on you, your neighbors, as well as our entire city of Annapolis to fully support our public safety budget, which includes our fire department and our Office of Emergency Management, both working hand in hand with our APD, especially when it comes to substance use disorder, especially, which we know that public safety is a significant portion of our overall city budget. Ward 1 Alderwoman Tierney, who represents the downtown and surrounding areas, is the chair of our council's finance committee, and I'm CCing her here in this email. And the other two members are Ward 2 Alderwoman O'Neill, who represents the Germantown-Homewood area, which we somewhat split when it comes to representation, and the Clay Street area corridor, and Ward 4 Alderwoman Finlayson. They are the three city council members who sit on our finance committee. So feel free to contact early and often the persons that I'm listing here and request that they do everything that they can to support our city's public safety budget, including all of our city alderpersons, 8 of them, including the mayor's office, Buckley, Annapolis Police Department, Chief Jackson and Deputy Chief Branford, President's Hill Association, Ward 1 Resident Association, Eastport Civic Association, Germantown Homewood Civic Association, State Delegates Henson and Jones, State Senator Elbreath, Governor's Office, Hogan. Additionally, during the last Maryland General Assembly session, 2021, our legislators passed the unprecedented Maryland Police Accountability Act. In a nutshell, our city's APD is mandated to fulfill all of the obligations that are outlined in this act. We continue to assess the cost of compliance, which is now at the very least up to $1 million. Likewise, we need support from our residents to include the cost of this compliance in our budget as well. While some components of the act took effect in October 2021, no later than July 1, 22, all components will be in effect. Also, all of this includes the necessity to fully fund and staff our Annapolis Police Department. After 16 years as a very recent retiree, 12/31/21, from Anne Arundel County Public Schools in the Office of Equity and Accelerated Student Achievement, I'm very involved in as well as sensitive to what our children and families are in need of. The more positive opportunities and experiences that our youth and even our families have, the likelihood is that crime and negative behavior will decrease. As such, I work very closely with and am in regular communication with ARPD Director Trader and his staff and their programming. Please feel free to spread the word about these presentations and offerings, etc. Certainly, we all can contribute toward making our community safe from violent crime again. Feel free to keep me posted and CC on any and all correspondence and reach out to me at any time. Thank you so much for all of your support and concern and for the support of our communities on a holistic level. So very much appreciated, Rhonda. And I've ended with this mantra for 3 years. By law, the Public Safety Committee shall consider matters affecting public safety in the city. Shall is the word operative here. The Public Safety Committee shall review all proposed amendments to Title 11, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare, and Title 12, Vehicles and Traffic of the City Code. First and foremost, the public safety is paramount. Moreover, as this legal obligation relates to the community's residents, businesses, and visitors, the public safety, including the public's peace, morals, and welfare, the public safety is best assured when its residents are 1, healthy, 2, informed or educated, 3, meaningfully engaged in the enhancement of our professional and volunteer workforce, 4, good money managers of their finances, 5, residing in safe and affordable housing communities, 6, mobile, in other words, easily able to access adequate and affordable transportation when needed, 7, pursuing social community entertainment, the arts, historical, and recreational activities, 8, as well as possibly choosing to enlighten themselves spiritually. Therefore, the Public Safety Committee is committed to working as one Annapolis, an Annapolis that values everyone and where healthy living starts here, unquote. And of note, since these emails went out, Ward 1 Residents Association has had a more comprehensive meeting, but is now requesting some additional information and meeting time. So let's return to what seems to be the 3 most common themes here that relate to us. Our efforts are very frustrating, with many on the city council appearing to not care and focusing their efforts on other priorities. The crime and shootings continue. That's number 2. In the meantime, the city council, with the exception of a few, seems to turn a blind eye on this and focus on other issues.
Alderwoman Pindell-Charles, that's 32 minutes. You're quoting Rick Lober from the Ward 1 Residents Association. Please, can you wrap it up?
Yes. I'd like to finish at the next meeting, sir.
Do you want to close up or not?
I'm closed. There's more, but I'll finish it up at the next meeting.
We appreciate your update from the Public Safety Committee. We want the public to know that we always give an opportunity for all of our older persons to present on the things they're passionate about. We truly appreciate that presentation, Alderwoman Pendle-Charles. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is comments by the general public.
Okay, we have some audio testimony people signed up. One of your good friends, former Alderman Julie Stankovic, is up first. Please come forward, Julie. State your name and your address in Pennsylvania.
I'm here. I don't know if you guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Julie.
Okay, just making sure because I don't see everyone. Hi, my name is Julie Stankovic, and I am the former alderman for Ward 6 in the city of Annapolis. I currently live in New Freedom, Pennsylvania, but of course, I still have friends and activities that I do in Annapolis, so I'm in the area quite often. This past weekend, I happened to be downtown meeting up with friends, and I parked in the garage, which, by the way, I can't wait to see come down. Not very safe. But the thing that caught my attention was the deterioration that's occurred with respect to the City Hall structure. Now, when I was alderman 13 years ago, we instituted a historic structures report. Your draft was given to you in February of '09. If you look back at the existing facility assessment, you'll see that there was wood repair required across the board for the sills on the Duke of Gloucester side of the building, amongst others as well. Now, that part of the building was originally constructed in 1766 and 1769. It was the assembly rooms, which then joined with the other building that has become part of City Hall. And its first renovation took place in 1867 to 1868 because of a fire that happened during the Civil War. Now, I spoke with Mr. Donovan at Public Works today, and I understand that there is a meeting to be held with a contractor to deal with the deterioration of the sills that has gone well beyond what I would have ever expected it to be. I mean, it's been 13 years. I understand that in 2012, it appears that the cornice was dealt with. I hope that is the case. But clearly, I recognize there are lots of other things going on, but the historic structure, the historic nature of that building are critical because Annapolis is a historic district, and we take pride in our historic preservation. What I would like to say is that Mr. Donovan was not aware of the HSR report, and I think it's important to review that document, especially with respect to the recommendations that were made with respect to the materials that would be used to correct the deficiencies that are currently existing on the building. With respect to the exterior work itself and the windows and the sills themselves. And I believe it would be most prudent for the council, especially in times of looking at the budget, to have an update on all of the elements that were included in the existing facility assessment that was done of Annapolis City Hall in 2009, so that you can make sure that you've addressed all these underlying issues, because there were some really significant issues that needed to be resolved. And it's frustrating for me as a former alderman, but just even as a visitor to Annapolis, to walk by a building and see a sill that's completely rotted out, especially on a building so important as this. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention. I have spoken with Alderwoman Ellie Tierney, and I've also talked with Alderman Ross Arnett on these issues, and I'll continue to stay engaged because I do care that the building is maintained. You all are about to come back in it, and we want to make sure that it's safe and that it's structurally sound going forward. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, Mel Wilkins, well-deserved recognition.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you for your service when you were here. I think it's first on the list in the spring. I agree with you. It is embarrassing that we have not addressed those sills, and we need to get on it. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
Okay, next, please come forward, Rick Lober. Please state your full name and address.
Thank you, Mayor Buckley and City Council members. My name is Rick Lober. I reside at 84 Conduit Street in Annapolis. I'm the president of the Ward 1 Residents Association, and I'm speaking in opposition to the 100% electric mobility plan as currently proposed, specifically the inclusion of the electric ferry. WARA is in support of seeing Annapolis go 100% electric in order to reduce our carbon footprint and sea level rise. However, we see no immediate need for a ferry, electric or other, connecting downtown to Eastport. Reasons for this are as follows. The ferry may operate near the Eastport Bridge, which currently provides vehicular, bicycle, and walking access for all. The only apparent need for the ferry is to say we've gone electric. Other more useful ferry routes should be considered. While the ferry would be free to use, it'll require city funding from infrastructure and operation, even if grants are received. We understand the city wants to spend up to $130,000 this year on the project, including a down payment on the ferry. We see many more important uses of these funds, including public safety and social workers, which Alderman Pindell Charles so elaborately just went through. Repair of our streets and sidewalks. Annapolis is the only town I know of where it's safer to walk in the street than on the sidewalk. Or electric charging stations for the many electric vehicles our residents now own. That's going to reduce your carbon footprint much more than a ferry. Any of these uses, particularly public safety, would be significantly more benefit to our residents than a ferry. There's no certainty of the grants, and even if they do come in, the fiscal impact statement on this project shows approximately $1.4 million in costs over the next 2 years, with grants covering only $600,000 of that total. The new Hillman Garage PPP will result in approximately $1 million less in city revenues than the garage is presently generating. Where are these funds going to come from? There's debate over the use of Fifth Street as the Eastport landing for the ferry. Ferry routing seems unclear in general, and other more useful sites need study. There is also debate over which company to buy the ferry from and the impact of the Jones Act, which could increase liability to the city significantly. In summary, we recommend that the City Council amend this ordinance to fund only a study on a potential electric ferry and defer any down payment until FY23 or beyond. The urgency here seems to be related to boat lead times, which are coming down, but we see no immediate need for an electric ferry given the financial challenges the city will be facing, potentially better uses of these funds, particularly in public safety, and the capital and operational cost of the city, even if grants were in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. While we have you here, what was the vote from the board on delaying the garage?
The vote from the board on delaying the garage was mixed. I testified on my own for that, but I will tell you that our board meeting after, the board was absolutely appalled at the way the garage was put forward without any public information on what we are signing up to. In fact, I don't even think the PPP has been decided yet. We have no idea what the city is getting into. The garage is clearly needed, as is the city dock, but it was shameful the way the city proposed that. And the board agreed.
Thank you for your opinion. Thank you. Next up is Amy Cruz. Please come forward.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Amy. Thank you.
Oh, great. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council and staff and others. My name is Amy Cruz, and I am a resident of Ward 8. I also work for the legal department of the ACLU of Maryland, but I'm speaking today on behalf of the Anne Arundel County Police Accountability Coalition. The coalition is a large coalition of 20 organizations, and those organizations include the ACLU of Maryland, Annapolis Pride, Anne Arundel NAACP, CARE, CASA, CAST, Caucus of African American Leaders, Centro de Ayuda, Connecting the Dots, Data Justice, Good Trouble Maryland, March on Maryland, One Pasadena, Our Revolution Maryland, People Builders Consulting, Progressive Maryland, South County is Kind, Surge 3A, and United Black Clergy. Our coalition recently submitted 6 recommendations to the County Council and the County Executive, and now are trying to get our recommendations included in as amendments. Many of us had been working for years with the county administration on legislation to create a civilian review board around the same time that the city convened a civilian review board advisory board. And then last year in 2021, as Alderwoman Pendel-Charles mentioned, one of the major police reform bills, House Bill 670, passed. It's called the Maryland Police Accountability Act. That state law mandates that each county must create a police accountability board. This should be an opportunity for us to create the robust police accountability board that includes all of the provisions we were planning to have at a civilian review board, both at the county level and at the city level. But instead, it's being used as an excuse to toss out all of the work that we have done before this year. And now we're proposing or having to deal with a proposal to do the bare minimum. The city and county offices of law have said that what we want, the coalition's recommendations, is illegal. Because these false claims were being used to stop consideration of our recommendations and discredit the coalition's effort, the ACLU sent a 6-page letter yesterday disputing each claim we're aware of. The bottom line, for clarity, is that nothing in House Bill 670 or any other law prohibits the county from creating a system where it isn't just the police investigating themselves. As a member of the Civilian Review Board in Baltimore for over 6 years and the National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, I know what real oversight and accountability looks like, and the county's bill is far from it.
Amy, that's 3 minutes, please, if you could wrap up. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So finally, please consider that making an investment in the resource that is community trust would pay dividends in the success of community policing outcomes. We would love the City Council to consider supporting the coalition. We'll ask each of you individually. We'll send you an email with additional letters and information as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you. Next up is Joshua Hatch. If you can come forward and state your full name and address, Joshua.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. My name is Joshua Hatch. I live at 1856 Bowman Court. I am the chairman for public safety for the Caucus of African American Leaders. I'm the chief executive officer for Freedom Fighters, LLC, which is a partner in Annapolis Police Department's Positive Impact Program. I'm also a member of Annapolis United and Connected, which is the coalition youth initiative that's spearheaded by the Annapolis Police Department as well. And I'll be piggybacking off of everything that Amy Cruz just said about our desire as the Anne Arundel County Coalition for Police Accountability to support the coalition's recommendation. The council should know how important the recommendations of this coalition is and what it means to the constituents that live in the Annapolis community. There are things that I could say, however, I will limit my time and get straight to the point about the membership or the person or persons that will be representing this great city. If their bill were signed into law today, it would exclude the participation of returning citizens who have previously committed a crime of violence or moral turpitude. This prohibition eliminates a whole pool of qualified candidates that are currently being used to improve police and communal relationships. Individuals like myself who served time in prison and came back into the community, now matured, who currently advocate on behalf of returning citizens, meet with police chiefs, state's attorneys, prison superintendents, and members of our legislature to advocate for change. Individuals who currently are working with correctional facilities to implement programs designed to curb recidivism. Individuals who are called by the police department to advocate as community leaders to members of the public to do what's right to curb violence. Individuals who vote, pay taxes, own businesses, and are employ city residents. And most notably, individuals who currently work on the Anne Arundel County Police Department and individuals who work in the state's attorney's office. I'm speaking about all returning citizens, political leaders, council members, and representatives of the police department. If you're under the sound of my voice, I would like to say that you can't pick and choose when you want to use people who have made mistakes, and then when it's convenient, exclude them when you feel uncomfortable. I myself have been uncomfortable when called by the Annapolis Police Department to stand with them inside of the emergency management building to address the Annapolis community, to advocate for individuals who shot and paralyzed a young man and killed and harmed a young lady, for those individuals to turn yourself in. Being uncomfortable.
Joshua, you're over 3 minutes now. If you could just wrap up, thank you.
Sure. Being uncomfortable did not prevent me from doing what's right. I called Annapolis my home, and I'm hoping that the city of Annapolis will be a leader when it comes to community policing and allowing individuals to hold our police department accountable should it be needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. Next up, Chuck Hurley.
If I could.
Alderman Gay. Yep.
Yeah, very quickly, just as it relates to those two issues. And Alderman Savage, I hope I'm not stepping on your toes here because I know you. Okay. Would it be possible if the council could have a quick work session as it relates to the state legislation and the county legislation prior to them voting on it? I think March the 26th or something like that, maybe the 30th. I just think there are a number of things that, even I learned we discussed the state legislation and the county legislation, and it's critical that we stay informed just so that we can be alert as to what's going on. As mentioned, this legislation plays a significant role in trusting the community with police. And so if possible, I don't know, what our schedule is like, but it'd be great to do so.
I'll get Director City Manager Gerald to reach out. When this gets on the floor, it'll be going to some committees. There'll be a lot of discussion about it. So, but Mr. City Manager.
Yes, Alderman Gay, can you repeat the date that when the county council hearing is for that? I know it's coming up.
It is. I'm actually wrong. I thought it was I know it's the last week of March. I know Carrie just mentioned.
It's the 21st.
21st. Oh, actually, so it's Monday.
So it's a week from today, because we have a council work session this Thursday, but it's focused on HACA issues. So I don't know if we want to try to add a bit of time for this issue at that work session.
Maybe we could just have Carrie, if possible.
Provide an update. Okay. Yep.
Alderman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On those same lines, we have R1522 on our agenda tonight. If we're expecting it to have an impact in the county legislation, then we're going to have to do something. So all depends on what we're planning with this. Alderman Savage and Alderman Gay, you sponsored this legislation. So are you hoping to impact the county's decision on their legislation? Because the time is very short.
In response to that, and without, again, stepping on Alderman Savage's toes, without discussing this with him before, I would like for the resolution to impact the county legislation where legally possible, but I don't know what is legal or not, because we've had brief discussions, not as a group, and that's just kind of where I'd like to put all of our brains together and walk through it if possible, like I said.
Thank you. We are in the middle of public testimony now, so I'm going to move on to the next speaker. Next speaker is Chuck Hurley. Please come forward. State your full name and address. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Chuck Hurley, a constituent of Alderman Tierney at 5 Park Place and a member of the Annapolis Human Relations Commission. I also want to thank Alderman Savage for inviting me to speak on behalf of the commission and to testify on R1522. Following a presentation by Reverend Morris to the commission, we unanimously supported the recommendations of the Arundel Coalition for Police Accountability. I'm also the former and retired national CEO of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I worked with great law enforcement officers across the country for nearly 40 years. They've been on checkpoints and ride-alongs in more than 30 states that got drunk drivers off the road. The good cops take great pride in doing their essential and often very dangerous work while respecting the constitutional rights of all involved. In America, we are all created equal and are entitled by the Constitution to be treated equally. The cops who don't respect the Constitution dishonor the great work the good cops do. In the interest of time, I'll leave the specific recommendations that of course, you've heard Amy Cruz speak to and Mr. Hatch. But a police accountability board that is strong, fair, independent, and transparent, as recommended by the coalition, will go a long way to eliminating the incidents and patterns of discrimination that have for way too long been tolerated by the rest of us. It will also, in my opinion, restore to the good cops the honor and respect they deserve. I'd like to raise the larger and systemic issue. For many years, some say hundreds of years, we as a society have have ignored and tolerated these repeated offenses to the Constitution. The Saturday Washington Post article on repeat violations was particularly disturbing. Virtually every Black family has felt it necessary to give the, quote, talk to its teenage Black sons in order to have them return home safely after encountering the police. This has left a deep scar in our Constitution. A strong accountability board, as recommended, will deter the bad behavior of those officers that don't fully respect the Constitution. It hopefully will lead to the talk no longer being necessary and removing the deep scar to our Constitution, in my opinion. And thanks to the good work of Alderwoman Pendle Charles, the mayor and the new chief, we made great progress, but we have more work to do. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you. Next up is Margaret Morris. Please come forward and state your full name and address. Thank you.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, thank you, Margaret.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm Reverend Margaret Morris, P.O. Box 508, Severna Park, Maryland. I am with Community Actively Seeking Transparency and for Kathy's sake, and I'm speaking to you tonight on behalf of a coalition of over 20 organizations. I thank you and appreciate how amicable the city of Annapolis has already shown themselves to be towards the process. But there are several good reasons why I come before you tonight. First, these individuals and the people we represent are sincere and serious about the need for increased police accountability and transparency. Secondly, it's the simple implications of the police having already policing themselves for over 150 years, I believe, in the city and 85 years in the county. So the question for me is, why not give the people what they need? Impacted persons are real, and these people stretch from one end of our country to the other. But this is clearly about our county, not to mention that this is Maryland's capital, and perhaps others are watching what happens here. Say there is a complaint about the chief. You go to Internal Affairs, who report to the chief, and a complaint comes before the PAB, with the chief of police is sitting at the table. Now, how many of us honestly believe that they're actually going to slap or punch themselves for doing the wrong thing? So in closing, the bills that are proposed and that we're asking for the amendments on, they do not formally ban law enforcement officers from sitting at the table. It does not exclude the Fraternal Order of Police. It does not include other retired law enforcement individuals. It also does not explicitly account for the staffing and budgeting necessary for an effective police accountability board. Thirdly, I am a firsthand witness to the problem the lack of an independent board can represent. 9 long years of struggling over a case where there was no board. What, in my opinion, is distinctively different, perhaps, is knowing how internally the paperwork can be manipulated, the evidence can be suppressed to cover up mistakes. But when it's not the circumstance of perhaps a shooting, but the interworkings to hide the truth so that what is reviewed may not be factual. With that being said, as we move forward, we do need the ability to launch independent investigations, hire qualified persons to perform those investigations, and it's quite simply called checks and balances. So the question tonight, my friends, is why not? And I want to read this quote as I close out. In my daughter's case, the retired police officer made the following statement. He said, from a law enforcement perspective, and purely from a law enforcement perspective, had proper procedures been taken from the initial contact with officers with the victim and things been done correctly, he said, we would not be here today. So as a law enforcement professional, he said, I have serious concerns because the profession of law enforcement is very near and dear to me. And when I see travesties made, mistakes like this, I'm very disturbed by them. So on behalf of the coalition, we ask you tonight to support what we're doing. And then the other question again, as we go back to the reality, why not support these initiatives for transparency and accountability in our police? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you. I don't see anybody else signed up to speak. I'd like to thank the public for coming forward on this. I would like the public to know that this city council and this city does not work in a linear fashion. We work on 1,000 things at the same time, and we give each one of those things our full attention, and that is how we run this city. So we appreciate you all understanding that. I declare the public hearing closed. The City Council's public comments web form submitted in writing online, automatically sent to members of the City Council and reviewed on the city's website and the public testimony page located at www.annapolis.gov/1680/public-testimony. Hope you all got that. Thank you so much. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, you have 3 appointments. AP 622, the appointment of John Henry Turner to the Annapolis Conservancy Board. AP 2122, appointments to the Board of Supervisors of Elections. And AP 2222, the appointment of Harold Siegel to the Port Wardens.
Would someone like to move these as a group? Alderman Savage?
Yeah, I just have a question. Has the AP 2122, the appointments to the Board of Supervisors of Elections, has that gone to a committee like the other appointments have?
I will ask Regina, the city clerk.
Okay, because one of my concerns is that Mr. Keanu, sorry, I'm blanking on his last name right now. He is going to be appointed to the election board, but I believe he's already made it clear that he intends to run for election for city council next time. And my concern, that's not prohibited in the code, but my concern is we might be left with a vacancy right before the next election, if that's the case. And it might be worthwhile to have this go back to committee so we can at least just interview these people. So just not interview them, but at least talk to them like we do in the other committees.
I'm going to hand it over to the city attorney. I believe that's not our place to do that. So Mr. City Attorney, if you could clarify that for us.
It is not in the code. These references or these recommendations come from the parties.
Well, we get a vote on it. So why does it come to us if we can't even ask about it?
You can ask about it now.
Regina?
I just wanted to say that Mr. Smith-Brown did come in today and close his campaign. So he is technically eligible to be appointed to the Board of Supervisors of Elections.
Thank you. So he's eligible, Alderman Savage, Alderman Schneidermeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand the concern. Do we have a rule where if someone on the Board of Elections files for a position in the city to run for one, would they have to leave the board?
Yes, sir.
I believe so.
Okay. So in that case, I think with that protection in place, yeah, we may have to find a replacement later, but we could say that for any of the other applicants too. I think it will be okay if we move forward with the list as presented.
Thank you. Alderman Pindell-Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make it perfectly clear to everyone. I had not asked anybody to ask any of these questions at all. I'm not asking any questions about this candidate.
Thank you, Alderman Pindell-Charles. Are we okay to move these as a block? Someone could move that.
Motion to move the appointments as a block.
I just had a quick question. Has this been dwindled? I'm assuming so based off of what the city attorney mentioned. This has been dwindled down by the individual committees, because I remember in particular, there were 3 names that I've seen before. I see the city clerk if
Mr. Mayor, you have a motion. Are you accepting a second or not?
Can we get a second to move them as a block? Is that right, Alderman Shannemeyer? It's on the floor. And Regina, did you have some clarification? No.
I just wanted to say, Alderman Gay, it's the mayor's decision. As long as the central committees met the requirement to submit the 4 names, the mayor brings the 3 names that he chooses to the city council for confirmation.
Okay, so this is the right ones.
He had a list. We received a list of 4 names from the Democratic and the Republican Central Committees, and we forwarded those names to the mayor's office, and the mayor selected the names that we put before you tonight.
Awesome, thank you.
But it's up to this body if they want to take any of those names out. Okay. All right. We've got a first and a second. All those in favor with a show of hands, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Next item on the agenda is consent calendar, approval of journal proceedings.
Thank you. Are there any objections to any items on the consent calendar? I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Yeah.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Aye.
Alderman Pindell-Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
And Alderman Shannemeyer?
Aye.
And that carries.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Business and miscellaneous matters, fund transfer. The first one is FT 422, capital DPW.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve FT 4-22?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor with a show of hands, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, one opposed. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
You're muted.
Mr. City Attorney.
Got it, sorry. We're in public hearings now. First item is 01022, peddlers, hawkers, and itinerant merchants.
I do not see anybody here for live testimony. Is that right, Regina? Mr. City Clerk, thank you. Right, I declare the public hearing on 0-10-22 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Sir, the next item is legislative actions. The first item is first readers, O1122.
Is there a motion to adopt O-1122 on first reader?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of this on first reader with a show of hands say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you. I'm going to refer O-11-22 to rules of city government and the planning commission. Mr. City Attorney, please. Alderman Gay.
Just quickly, just for clarification for the general public. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we're not on. My apology. We're not on O11 yet.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Sir, the next item on the agenda is O1222, special events.
Wait,
clarifying special event permitting procedures.
Okay, before we go to that, Alderman Gay.
Thank you so much. Yes, just for clarification for the general public, because they'll say we all voted unanimously and that this is done. But on first reader, we do that because it has to be able to get to public testimony in the committees. That's why we vote unanimously, so.
Just to let everybody and to clarify what Alderman Gay said, good point. We generally vote on first reader unanimously to bring something to the floor so that the debate can start and it can go to the committees and can go to the public. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
That's O1222, special events, for the purpose of clarifying special event permitting procedures.
Is there a motion to adopt O-12-22 on first reader?
So moved.
Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor with a show of hands say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you. Let's refer O-12-22 to Environmental Matters Committee and the Transportation Committee. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
R1322, Housing Authority of the City of Annapolis, project prioritization for the purpose of approving resolution states the city desires to prioritize HACA redevelopment projects.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt R-13-22 on first reader?
So moved.
Could I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye with a show of hands. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item.
Yes.
Can this come to my committee?
Regina? Can we refer R-13-12 to housing? Sorry. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. City Attorney, next item.
It's okay. The next item is R1422, city-sponsored special events in fiscal year 2022 amended.
Can we get a motion to adopt R-14-22 on first reader?
So moved.
So
Can I get a second? Thank you, Alderman Finlayson. All those in favor with a show of hands say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Please add me as a co-sponsor.
Thank you.
Please add me as a co-sponsor.
Please add me as a co-sponsor.
Sponsor?
You know, it's my birthday. It really is all about my birthday. It's really not about
hey, happy birthday. All right.
Not today, Juneteenth.
Oh, sorry. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, R1522, Anne Arundel County Coalition for Police Accountability Recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt R-15-22 on first reader?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep, Alderman Pendell Charles.
do I have any time to speak or have I used up all my time so far?
I think if the motion's on the floor, you're allowed to speak. Thank you.
How much time do I have?
Well, whatever you think is respectful of your colleagues.
That's not a good answer.
Well, you're up to 33 minutes on the last one, you know, whatever you think, Alderman Pendell Charles. Yeah, Alderman Pendell Charles.
Never mind. Never mind. I'll wait till everybody else has something to say, and then maybe I'll say something.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson.
Yes, colleagues, again, I will ask what our intent is with this resolution. If it is to send the county council a message about how we feel about the Police Accountability Board, then they're prepared to act on it, I believe, on the 21st. Maybe it could be delayed, but it's on their agenda for the 21st. So if we really want to have an impact, then we should suspend the rules and approve this tonight. It is a resolution, which is simply a sense of the council. It doesn't impact our city code in any form or fashion, but it sends a message. So I'm asking all of you, is there an interest in having an impact on the Police Accountability Board? And we've heard some of the concerns from Rhonda McCoy. She's presented to us at least twice about the impact that the city will have on this accountability board. So I'm asking you, or Mr. Mayor, I'm asking you to ask all of us, what is our flavor?
Well, my understanding is they're halfway through 50 amendments, close to 50 amendments. So I believe we'd be voting on something that we don't know what we're voting on yet. We are not familiar with all those amendments. So I would think it'd be prudent not to vote on something that you don't know what the content is, but that's just my opinion. But it's up to this council if you want to move to suspend the rules. So.
Well, Mr. Mayor, what we do know is what the legislation says today. We don't know whether any amendments are going to be approved or not, but we do know what the legislation says. And we do know that all of those coalitions, and I think it was Amy who read through the lengthy list of community groups who weighed in on this, all of their concerns were not addressed. So, you know, this is an opportunity, but it is, you know, up to the council.
Thank you. Alderman Savage was next, and Alderman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I mean, the intention of this legislation was to do we can to influence the county decision, because the decision they make will be influencing us, impacting us. It's going to be impacting our police department, but also our residents. And so I felt like, it's important for us to at least have our voices and stances known on this. And so I also think it's important to support the recommendations from our own Human Relations Commission, who's a member of the larger coalition. In terms of the timing, I mean, I'd support a suspension of the rules. And, you know, I don't entirely know the county's process. Maybe the city attorney would know better, but in terms of I know they do a lot of amendments like the mayor indicated. If they amend their legislation at the next meeting, I'm not sure if they can have a final vote at that meeting or if it gets kicked back for another public hearing. I don't know. So I don't know how much time we have. I know there's some talk. I spoke with Lisa Ravian, Councilwoman Ravian today, and there was some talk about possibly trying to get together the various law offices and the ACLU and the coalition to try to find something to come together on. But I don't have any more details beyond that.
I definitely support bringing everybody together on this. I think it's too important to not do that. Thank you, Alderman Savage. Alderman O'Neill, and then Alderman Gay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. My question mainly was if both Alderman Savage and Alderman Gay could more explain why they were bringing it forward, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much for what we're doing to try and influence that. My question, I guess, goes back to Alderman Pindell Charles. in all of your testimony earlier, and probably more to come, are you vehemently opposed to this? Is that the gist of the who, what, when, where, how, why that we were giving? I was a little bit unclear exactly to this particular resolution or to what the county is doing. Am I able to ask that question?
Are you asking me that, Alderman O'Neill?
Alderman Pindell.
Yes.
I'm going to be quite blunt and frank. If I had been allowed, and it's the mayor's decision, to continue with what I had to say, this would all become much, much clearer. Much, much clearer. But because I was not allowed to, I feel like I'm at a disadvantage to even answering your question, because it's going to conjure up more questions. But if I could continue to finish, then I think it will become much, much clearer as to what my position is and why it is what it is. I mean, I think I do you all a disservice by trying to speak about this resolution without you hearing the entire picture about this. And that's why I wanted to finish, but it's the mayor's decision. But it doesn't help matters that I can't finish. And I'm not, no disparagement to the mayor at all. But what I'm saying is I can't really answer your question unless I really finish, because it just conjures up more questions. And I need to set the stage and the landscape for what everybody needs to hear. One thing I will say, and this is going to get into some muddied waters. I'm your public safety chair. At least I thought it was. But nobody mentioned this to me at all. I had to read about it myself. And when I went to talk to staff, no one would talk to me. Crickets, that's all I heard. No one has come to me. Obviously, I'm not doing a good job at being your public safety chair, because I haven't heard from anybody. I had to read it for myself. And that's, I just want to say that for now, but there's much more that I need to say. But like I said, I do you all a disservice. Like I say, no criticism to the mayor if I cannot finish what I have prepared.
Well, Alderman Pindell-Charles, we would like you to finish, if you could, please. Thank you. Would you like to go forward with your...
let Alderman Gay answer his question.
Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly, as it relates to some of the questions that were before, I think most importantly, we're not taking any side on the county legislation, but simply supporting recommendations as stated by the Alderwoman and stated by the Alderman of a number of community advocacy groups and law groups involved in criminal justice in the state of Maryland, that they found the current legislation as it stands, and you're right, Mr. Mayor, they went through, I think, 41 amendments or 38, something like that, as it stands would hold what the community would have liked to see come out of that legislation. So I don't think we're putting the cart before the horse by making a recommendation to the county, because they may have not simply even got there in the amendments that they're expected to hear, or in the amendments that they could potentially hear if the legislation is delayed on Monday, the 21st. Additionally, as it related to the claims that Rhonda McCoy stated, she did speak out in regards to this legislation, but mostly as it related to the cost, not what the two bodies, the charging committee and the PAB, were charged with doing, but how much it could potentially cost the city. And so I don't think that and I don't want to speak for the police chief or the deputy chief or Rhonda McCoy, but I don't think they were disappointed in what the legislation was proposing, but more disappointed in the cost. There was just one other point.
I think I can speak for them, Alderman Gay. I can, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, they aren't here. So, but and additionally, just moving forward, I mean, this is simply a recommendation. It's not like we're changing the county's legislation. I think the community has expressed their concerns tonight and their support for this. And I think, the alderman has done a great job at trying to meet with the Office of Law and get this legislation taken care of, resolution care of, understanding he is not the committee chair for public safety. I don't think you have to be a committee chair for any particular committee if you are passionate about an issue and you don't see anything being done about it. Okay, there shouldn't be, you know, claim over public safety or claim over any particular issue. So I would hope that we can support this resolution.
I agree with you, Alderman Gay, but you need to hear the rest of the story. And that's why I'm asking the mayor, can I finish? That's why. I'll answer your question.
I will let you finish.
And Alderman Tierney, sir.
Alderman Tierney, and then I will go to you, Alderman
Tierney.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. This is my only opportunity to explain my vote on this. And I guess contrary to what Alderman Gay said, voting on first reader doesn't necessarily have to be unanimous. I have to respond to this in my capacity as finance chair. We all know that policing is going to be an extraordinary, in all life safety, is going to be a very big consideration during the budget process. And I want to stay neutral, and I think that this is unfortunate timing, and I'm going to have to say no on letting this go further on first reader for that reason, just because of the neutrality I think we need to have in reviewing the budget. So just thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you. Alderman Gay?
Yeah, just a question for my colleague. You do realize that this resolution has no fiscal impact, and that most of what the PAB and the charging committee will be tasked with doing will not be paid for by city coffers.
I understand that. I understand that.
So how are you, what are you taking, why are you, what neutral on? Currently there's some negotiations going on, and I don't think that I want to contribute to anything that might affect those conversations. Okay.
Thank you, Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, just to that point, I mean, I think it's, as far as the timing being unfortunate, I mean, it's not something we've chosen. You know, we've had, what was it, over 20 community groups with, you know, which counts for a lot of our constituents approaching us, approaching the county, and our own Human Relations Commission. And so I feel like we have to respond. We can't just be neutral. They're asking us to support their recommendations, and we're just going to be neutral. I mean, this is legislation that is, like I said, is going to be impacting, yes, impacting our police department, but also impacting our residents. And so I just don't feel like you can't be neutral on a moving train. I just don't think that's going to work.
Thank you, Alderman Savage. Alderman Pindell-Charles, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think it's very important for me to finish. I'm going to start where I left off. So let's return to what seems to be the three most common themes here based on us as council persons. Number one, our efforts are very frustrating, with many on the city council appearing to not care and focusing their efforts on other priorities. Number two, the crime and shootings continue. In the meantime, the city council, with the exception of a few, seems to turn a blind eye on this and focus on other issues. Number three, the majority of our city council seems to have other financial priorities in mind. Again, whether these descriptions are totally accurate or not, nonetheless, they certainly paint a grim picture of our city, a city where we have 40,000 residents and at least 1 million visitors per year. Nevertheless, these are in fact our residents' reality. Yes, perception can be reality. Again, who is accountable? What time is it? What are we talking about? What is our focus? What are our priorities? Where do we stand? What do we stand for? Nevertheless, as you can see by my emails and response, I try to be as honest as possible when it comes to accurately stating and balancing the priorities of our mayor and council, the actions of us as members of the Annapolis City Council. And yes, I try not to make us look like we don't know what we should be doing. But each one of us must answer directly these 7 questions that I have posed. 1, who is accountable? 2, what time is it? 3, what are we talking about? 4, what is our focus? 5, what are our priorities? 6, where do we stand? 7, what do we stand for? So what are we talking about? We are talking about the NAACP and the Caucus of African American Leaders who sat in on a 2-hour presentation by our Annapolis Police Department regarding what our APD is doing. And these 2 organizations independently each gave them a grade of A. And as we all know, these 2 organizations are tough graders. Arguably, these 2 A's received are evidenced by our APD's Chief Edward Jackson receiving the We Share the Dream Award at the 34th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Sold Out Awards dinner on last Friday evening. What are our priorities? Our priorities were to solidly investigate all 5 of our homicides in 2021, which all resulted in arrests. What time is it? It's time to recruit and retain officers where we currently have less than 1 officer per ward per shift. Where do we stand? We stand at press conferences where we all can participate and inform the public about how we are supporting our public safety team, what they are accomplishing, and what we are in need of. What do we stand for? We stand for collaboration and partnerships in support of public safety, whether at press conferences with Pastors Craig Coates, Jerry Colbert, and Cheryl Menendez, our Anne Arundel County Board of Education President and Annapolis Representative Joanne Tobin, our County Councilwoman and Council Chair Lisa Rodman, among others. And we stand for asking our residents to assist with investigations. And if they don't feel comfortable doing this directly, then we encourage them to ask a trusted intermediary to step in and to assist on our residents' behalf. And we stand for increasing our positive and trusting relationships with our federal partners, the FBI, DEA, U.S. Marshals, USNA, and the state's Capitol Police, and many, many others. What is our focus? Our APD's focus is to be transparent. This can include providing information to residents and communities via hosting 2 to 3 hour in-depth meetings. Additionally, for example, in the case where an APD officer failed to initiate and complete investigations in several felony cases, while some jurisdictions may have and found an easy way to quietly handle the case, our APD brought the case to light and to the public's attention first and continued to cooperate fully with further investigations. And when an officer was involved in a theft at a big box store in another jurisdiction, likewise, the APD was fully transparent in that case. Colleagues, who is accountable? We all continue to respond to Ordinance 0922, the 84 and still counting emails that we all have received regarding the support to eliminate off-street parking requirements for restaurants. While I, like everyone else, enjoy a good restaurant meal every now and again, are we talking about the sordid and unpleasant history of our city and county, where our educational, housing, and workforce systems, this triumvirate of life, the underbelly of every community that was systematically removed and that I personally experienced and lived through myself, that has directly resulted in 15 public and subsidized housing communities in Annapolis today? Are we talking about that? Are we talking about the child who lives in the Robinwood community, again, who is now paralyzed at the tender age of 15 and whose life has been changed forever? A child who was playing ball. Are we talking about that? And the child who was seriously injured while walking her dog. Are we talking about that? And the child who was running away from the shooting and slipped and fell. Are we talking about that? And the shots that were fired soon after the Robinwood shooting in the Bywater community. Are we talking about that? And the next day shooting near the Georgetown East Elementary School with children, some as young as 5, who are now traumatized. Are we talking about that? And our APD officers who have performed very well, and because of their professionalism here in Annapolis, too many of them who are now leaving for positions with our federal partners. Are we talking about that? Are we doing anything about that? And how all of this is crippling the morale of our current officers. Are we talking about that? Are we talking about doing anything about that? And how it has become increasingly difficult to recruit officers to serve here in Annapolis with the gun violence and violence that we have, since we are increasingly becoming more and more understaffed. Are we talking about that? Are we doing anything about that? And how we don't even have one officer on duty per shift to cover each ward. Are we talking about that? Are we doing anything about that? And how our recruitment efforts are going? Are we talking about that? And are we doing anything about that? And do we remember planning and zoning's adequate public facilities where our police force is mandated to be a certain size, ratio-wise, depending upon our population, which has increased as indicated by the 2020 census? Are we talking about that? And what are we doing about that? And you've heard the emails tonight, colleagues. Shots being fired, children are traumatized, residents can't sleep, violence abounds in practically every ward in our city. And are we doing anything about that? Yes, everyone wants a police department. However, the police nor the residents want the police to be occupiers in any of our communities. But what they do want is for our police officers to protect and to serve them with dignity and respect. Are we talking about that? Are we doing anything about that? So I ask, who is accountable? Who are our residents holding accountable? Let's return to number 3. Quote, and from a different perspective, what programs are in place to prevent crime? While I do agree that our police department needs adequate funding, I believe prevention is the key, exclamation point, unquote. Yes, preventive programs which give our children and families opportunities and experiences that can provide them with alternatives that can lead them away from violent and criminal behavior and where they can find their own pathway toward a successful future. In other words, what time is it? It's time for all of us, colleagues, staff, viewers, and the community at large to find out about and to promote and to assist with connecting our residents with local community programming with a view toward looking at this through an equity lens. Programming, partnerships, and/or assistance are offered by the following: AARP at Ancient City Lodge number 14, Annapolis Anne Arundel Financial Education Coalition, Annapolis Arts Council, Annapolis Citizens Coalition, Annapolis City Marina, Annapolis Gardens Leadership Academy, Annapolis Recreation and Parks Department, including the Community Public Forum that is scheduled to be held on April 2nd, as the mayor indicated, and the mayor's initiative on recreational programming to reduce crime and juvenile delinquency in the city of Annapolis, Maryland, a $150,000 program to be included in the FY23 budget, and as I have been assured by our city manager that this program will be fully funded. Annapolis Symphony Orchestra, Annapolis Waterfront and Sailing Club, Anne Arundel Conflict Resolution Center, Anne Arundel County Chamber of Commerce, Anne Arundel County Department of Health, Anne Arundel County, especially the Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families, Anne Arundel County Public Library, Anne Arundel County Public Schools, Anne Arundel Literacy Council, Anne Arundel Medical Center, Anne Arundel Women Giving Together, Anne Arundel Workforce Development Corporation, Arundel Federal, Arundel Lodge, Asbury Church, Banneker Douglas Museum, Bay Area Community Church, BGE, Blessed in Tech, Boys and Girls Club of Annapolis, Anne Arundel County, Charting Careers, Chesapeake Children's Museum, Chesapeake Crossroads Heritage Area, Chesapeake Regional Accessible Boating, where I visited this morning, Chrysalis House, Clay Street CDC, Community Action Agency, Community Transitions, Creating Communities with Rob Levitt, DSS, Eastport Methodist, FHHMO, FDO, First Baptist, Future History Now, Grandma's Touch, HACA, including the Choice Neighborhood Planning Grant, Historic Annapolis, Juneteenth Celebrations, Kingdom Celebration Center, Kerwin Commission, Kente Festival, Leadership Anne Arundel, Little Free Libraries and Rotaries, Local Interagency Coordinating Council, Maryland Coalition of Families, Maryland Hall, Maryland Reentry Resource Center, Men Aiming Higher, Men of Courage, Morgan State University, Mount Moriah, Mount Olive, My Sister's Keeper, National Park Service, New Life, OIC, The Panalytic, Seeds for Success, Serenity Sister, SOFO, STAIR, Street Angels Project, Street Corner Ministries Coalition, including Annapolis Evangelical Presbyterian, Calvary Community Church of Riva, Beacon Light, Downtown Hope, First Christian, First Start, Heritage Baptist, John Wesley, Light of the World, Second Baptist, St. Anne's, St. Philip's, St. John's College, The Lighthouse, Tunnel Vision and Chase Your Dreams Initiative, United Black Clergy, United Way, Universal Lodge, USNA, Watermark, We Can Friends, Work-Life Behavioral Health, and this is just a few of many, many more partnerships that we can consider. And it's time to learn more about One Annapolis. Programs in the offices of our public safety team, APD, Annapolis Fire Department, Office of Emergency Management. I meet with all 3 of their leadership teams on a regular basis. And in our mayor's office, especially Ms. Laura Gutierrez, our Hispanic Community Services Specialist. Frankly, if there's legislation that is presented and it has an equity lens that can support our children and families, thereby providing meaningful experiences to them that can reduce the opportunities for violent and criminal behavior, then more than likely I will support it. Because nothing will matter whether housing or the environment or planning and zoning or traffic or parking or restaurants, will matter if this violence does not stop, and where our public safety teams are not our trusted and respectful partners. In my humble opinion, our Annapolis Police Department has overall proven themselves to be trusted and respectful partners, especially by two of the most notable and harshest critics around. Which brings me to Resolution R-1522. As your City Council's Public Safety Chair, I first learned of this resolution in our draft agenda from our Office of Law, which was emailed to the Mayor and Council on Monday, March 7, 2022 at 4:50 p.m. titled, Resolution to Nominate Appointments to Anne Arundel County Police Accountability Board. That's all that was said in the draft. Needless to say, I was shocked, especially by the fact that I was totally unaware of this legislation. Frankly, I thought that I was doing, at the very least, a halfway decent job as your public safety chair, but obviously I'm not. So I started to make some inquiries regarding this resolution. Surprisingly, no one from the city staff would provide me with any answers at all. In fact, no one would even speak with me at all. Yes, no one. I found this to be very disrespectful. Needless to say, as anyone would be, I was angry. After several days, the resolution was publicly published. Still, no real answers were provided. Nevertheless, I persisted. Yes, I became a PITA. And then I remembered, about a year ago, at least one of my colleagues indicated publicly that he did not want anyone to know about any legislation that he was proposing until it appeared on the agenda. So since that time, working collaboratively with colleagues on legislation for me has become almost non-existent. Instead, the practice seems to be working in silos, incognito, covert, and undercover, which has become the norm. Oh my, forgetful me. I happened to mention at a recent council meeting publicly that in December 2021, that my goal for the new term was to start working with each one of my colleagues on at least one joint project. As of today, based upon the edict announced about a year ago, this collaboration now seems to be impossible. Since my tenure on the council, I have often and regularly mentioned, privately and publicly, that each one of my colleagues brings a different skill set and litany of experiences to this body, which is extremely refreshing and helpful, and that I continue to rely on that expertise on a variety of levels. And there's one colleague in particular who I have consistently followed because of his professional and technical expertise. While we have at times had some skirmishes, nevertheless, I continue to value his judgment. However, on Monday, January 31st, 2022, from 4 to 5 p.m., this colleague and I had a heart-to-heart chat. And at that time, we mutually agreed and decided to solidify our relationship and to acknowledge the mutual respect that we each have for each other's areas of expertise. We talked at length, and I advised him on several different matters totally unrelated to the mutual respect issue. Along the way, we very cordially agreed to support each other when it came to this area of expertise of his and mine. I was overjoyed by this renewed collaboration and, yes, friendship. However, needless to say, when I read Resolution 5-1522, I noticed who the two co-sponsors were. One is the one who expressed his mutual respect for our areas of expertise, and the other one was the one who has asked publicly that his legislation not be released until it appears on the agenda. I was totally surprised, as well as deeply disappointed, and yes, even hurt and saddened. And still, I have not heard from either of these two co-sponsors. Truth be told, it didn't used to be this way. Moreover, even for one of tonight's pieces of legislation on the agenda, specifically 03821, illicit discharges, connections, stormwater, one of my colleagues wrote this to his constituents about the legislation, quote, "This legislation is fairly technical in nature and is an improvement recommended by our Director of Public Works, Michael Johnson. This is an area of expertise for Alderman Savage, who worked with the director to make some refining amendments," unquote, which begs the question, is law enforcement or even the practice of law considered to be technical in nature and is an area of expertise for our Annapolis Police Department, as well as our Office of Law? Mr. Johnson, our Director of Public Works, is a certified professional engineer. Nevertheless, I continued on with my investigation of R-1522. I finally spoke with our APD's administrator. I asked the administrator about who had made inquiries concerning the Police Accountability Act over the past several months, especially since over the past 5 to 6 months, our city council and mayor have had many public and private, intense and regular briefings regarding the Police Accountability Act from the Annapolis Police Department and our Office of Law. And we were strongly encouraged to have private and solo briefings as well, so that any and all questions, concerns, etc., would be directly and adequately addressed as we approach the implementation date of the entire Police Accountability Act on July 1st, 2022. I was informed that only Alderwomen Finlayson, Tierney, O'Neill, and me had asked additional questions, no one else. Recently, I received an email from 2 residents independently asking me to advocate for what I, first, as an attorney, second, as I have been professionally briefed on PAB over the past 6 months, third, as your public safety chair, and later on advice of counsel, I was asked to advocate for something that I did not believe that I could do in good conscience regarding the Police Accountability Act. My response to one of the residents was, without getting into any or all of the particulars, please be advised that respectfully, I will not be able to do what you are asking me to do. And I thank the person for their advocacy, since I sincerely and genuinely believe that whatever your advocacy is, excluding, of course, criminal activity, I can truly respect that, even when I don't necessarily agree. So part of that person's response to me, in response to me declining the request to support this PAB request, was, thank you for your response and letting us know where you stand, exclamation point. Frankly, where I stand is based upon many different factors and the varying issues that are presented, as you can readily and apparently see, which includes legal opinions from our city's Office of Law. With all of this being said again, everyone wants a police department. The police do not, nor the residents, want them to be occupiers in any of their communities. But what they do want is for our police officers to protect and to serve them with dignity and respect. And again, I go back to my original statement. No police department nor police officer is perfect. In fact, no one who walks on this earth is perfect. So instead, we all try to strive for excellence. But let me be perfectly clear here. As with any profession, those who have not upheld their oath of office or professional responsibilities should be subject to respond to whatever processes are put in place and should be held accountable for their actions. While serving as your public safety chair, I meet and or communicate with our chief and deputy chief regularly. Again, Annapolis has been the home of my family for over 150 years. How many people here in Annapolis can say that? So I've seen a lot, and so I take personal pride in my town and in my role as our council's public safety chair. That's my regular communication with our chief and deputy chief especially. We have very frank and candid conversations.
Just want to ask, it's at 20 minutes now. Is it much longer?
No, sir, it is not. I have 2 more pages to go and that's it. And I'll be done. Thank you. Yes, sir. That's my regular communication with our chief and deputy chief especially. We have very frank and candid conversations. We don't always agree. I offer my opinions. Sometimes they are acceptable, sometimes they are not. But in the end, I recognize that the final decisions are theirs, which are oftentimes based upon their combined over 70 years of very successful law enforcement experience and leadership. Again, I fully acknowledge and respect their areas of expertise. Again, our Annapolis Police Department has overall proven themselves to be trusted and respectful partners, especially by 2 of the most notable and harshest, rightly so, critics around, the NAACP and the Caucus of African American Leaders, which I respect tremendously. It doesn't get any better than a grade of A from each one of them independently. Yes, I'm frustrated, but more importantly, I'm angry about what is happening to and in my hometown and the response or lack thereof from some colleagues and staff. Especially over the past 6 to 9 months, we as colleagues, we all know this. We have had extremely lengthy community meetings, work sessions, briefings, intensive public safety standing committee meetings, including an inordinate number of presentations and discussions regarding the Police Accountability Act, well over 20 hours worth combined, where we all have been allowed and strongly encouraged to participate, ask questions, just review the videos, make comments, forward suggestions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as you all know, I'm accessible 24/7, 366. I'm up all night and all day. And now tonight, we have R1522. Well, just call me, as well as possibly our Annapolis Police Department, the most covert group of individuals on this planet. Again, who is accountable? What time is it? What are we talking about? What is our focus? What are our priorities? Where do we stand? What do we stand for? Yes, it's Women's History Month, and this is the last page. The one woman worth quoting here is Harriet Tubman, a Maryland native who would be 200 years old this year, and who at a suffrage convention in New York in 1896 said, quote, "I was a conductor of the Underground Railroad for 8 years, and I can say what most conductors can't say. I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger," unquote. Well, to our mayor and to all of us as alderpersons, we are all railroad conductors on this Annapolis train toward providing a positive quality of life with an emphasis on public safety for every Annapolis resident and business, and for every visitor that comes to our city. However, as I see it today, we are running this train off the track, and unfortunately, we're losing too many passengers. What time is it? What are we talking about? What is our focus? What are our priorities? Where do we stand? What do we stand for? So who is really accountable? Yes, first and foremost, we must start with the 9 of us here who sat on this dais. Thank you. And as I continue to remain your humble Public Safety Standing Committee servant leader, I respectfully submit this State of Annapolis Public Safety Address. Thank you again. 2 things I just want to mention. Alderman Gay, regarding the mantra that I mentioned, in the code it says that public safety shall be the ones who put forth these legislation. I'm not saying nobody else can. And number 2, believe me, I get it. When I first got on the council, I wrote an op-ed in the Capitol concerning stopping young African-American males, especially. My son is 39 years old and my daughter's 37, and they have each been stopped several times, and I have given them the talk. So I can see it from both sides. So don't think I don't see it at all. But this is my State of Annapolis Public Safety Address. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting me complete my address.
Thank you, Alderman Pendell Charles. I'm going to go to Alderman Channemeyer, then Alderman Gay, and then Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Pendell Charles, who sponsored 0922?
0922. You mean the
outdoor dining
restaurants? I don't recall. I'll be honest.
It's me. It's me.
That's fine. I'm not discouraging that. I'm not.
Who 24 hours after the shooting in Robinwood came forward with a specific study out of the University of Chicago for a statistical correlation between green spaces and public housing communities and reduction in violence, and shared it with you and everyone else?
You did. And when when we all decided, it was you, Alderman O'Neill, I think me, and we said, we must include Alderman Savage and Alderman Gay. And remember, I said, and I mentioned it to Alderman Arnett, that we were going to have a special lunch where we would talk about this. I would have to be on the out because we couldn't have any more than 4. So yes, I agree with you. I couldn't say all of that today because I had to cut it short. Sorry, but I'm glad you did.
Where I'm kind of going with this is I'm slightly frustrated by the calling out of a legislation for something that I care about as not being able to walk and chew gum at the same time.
I didn't say that.
48 hours, I got another study with another specific program on the Boston Gun Project.
And like I said, I would have included this in there, but I knew this was lengthy. But I'm glad you brought it up. And you know what I said in the email, that we were all going to work on this, at least 5 of us. So thank you. And I went to Alderman Arnett and asked him, we have a special lunch for that? And he said yes. At the last luncheon we had with Alderman Arnett that I did, and him and Alderwoman Finlayson. So you can verify that with him as well. I did that on our behalf, on your behalf.
That's my time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And before we I go to Alderman Gay and Alderman Savage, we obviously don't have the votes to suspend the rules. It's on first reader. It's going to go to committees. It's going to be debated a lot. So we have time to talk about this, and we can create that time frame. Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I definitely will respect the process and look forward to at this point discussing it more in committees or hopefully this Thursday at the work session. But I just have to respond because I'm deeply, deeply offended by a number of things that were just stated in that soliloquy. Let me start this by saying that you can support the police and also express concern for accountability at the same exact time. And I think that's something that me coming into this role, I initially did not know how to do, but I've learned to do over the course of the last 3 years. And I've grown to respect the police department deeply, in particular working with the chief and deputy chief. I like to think I have a good relationship with them. I text them whenever there is a concern in the community, whenever a constituent reaches out, et cetera, and just try to follow up. Whenever there's a shooting, I'm always talking to the deputy, getting on the phone. If I'm available, I stop by the scene, et cetera. So to be called one of the most notable / harshest critics of the police department is a slap in the face.
I didn't say that about you. I said that's not what I said. I was saying the critics were the NAACP. No, I didn't say that about Alderman Gay. I said it.
Alderman Bendel Charles, please. Alderman Gay has the floor. Thank you. Thank you.
Right, but that's incorrect. That's not what I said.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm giving you some time. So please give Alderman Gay some time.
Maybe not the most notable, maybe not the harshest, but what you insinuated several times throughout the legislation was that we did not. This is what I believe I've heard is that we did not care, or we did not take the concerns of the department to heart as you do. And I just wanted to list a couple of things because some in particular upset me. You mentioned that when the 15-year-old individual was shot and was paralyzed, what did we do after that, or what was the response after that? Every single time a handgun is shot or fired in the city of Annapolis, I am within seconds reaching out to the appropriate staff or personnel to figure out what has happened or what we can do, sometimes to a fault of myself. Before we went on recess, I was in heated arguments with almost each of my colleagues demanding that we have emergency meetings as it related to a number of the shootings that took place in the Eastport area. Going back to when Terry Bosley was shot in his head in broad daylight in Eastport Terrace on President Street, I had been vocal in supporting the police and supporting the community in concerns as it relates to how do we work together and figure out what exactly we can do. And so when you say those things, it is hurtful. And yes, at times I do fault you because you are the public safety chair. And when those two kids were shot at our next public safety meeting, immediately we should have been discussing solutions and figure out ways to be proactive and help those communities. Instead, we sat through a 2-hour public or PowerPoint presentation from the Office of Emergency Management. Not to discredit the Office of Emergency Management, but I weigh the severity of 2 kids being shot over that. And so if I was the chair, I would have acted accordingly. Now, understanding that investigations must take place whenever there are shootings. However, there are a number of things that we could do differently as a body to respond to the community concerns. I'm actually shocked and flabbergasted at some of the things that were stated in tonight's, in your statements tonight as it related to, I'm boiling right now and I'm shaking because I find offense that, I mean, I've tried so, in my 3 years of sitting on this council and with you as the public safety chair, to work with you on these issues and concerns as it relates to our communities, and particularly as it relates to violent crime. The Office of Community Caring Services, which you mentioned several times in your speech tonight, was not something that I started. It had started before I came on the council. However, I did bring legislation before the council in 2019 that made youth violent crime a mental health awareness issue in the city of Annapolis that passed unanimously. That opened up the door for us to start having the conversation on the resource centers again with Alderwoman Finlayson and Alderman Arnett at that time. And we put in motion plans to get those things kicked off. I had a meeting at our Housing and Human Welfare Commission, at our Housing and Human Welfare Committee a month and a half ago with the with Kevin Simmons, Aaron Lee, and Erica Griswold, and try to find out what we can do to get those offices up to shape. They aren't working effectively. The staff has stated themselves that they are in the same condition as when we opened them. And so there are a number of things that we could be doing as a public safety team to get behind and fix those issues. You mentioned working with Alderwoman Tierney and the Finance Committee. I look forward to doing that. But we could do both things at once. I can support investing in the resource centers, but also I can support using dollars to invest in police and staff, because I understand that we have a shortage and I understand that there are morale issues. We can do both things at the same time. I just want to make that clear, and I'm very deeply offended by some of the things that were said tonight. And I know that was not your intent at all, because you are never not that type of person. But I just want you to know that I've been trying for the last 3 years to work on some of these violent crimes issues just exhaustively. And so I would hope that you would recognize that and at some point work with me to get some of those things done.
Thank you, Alderman
Thank you,
Savage.
Alderman Gay. No, I just want to respond. What I said was the harsher critics were the NAACP and the caucus, which rightly so they should be. That's what I was saying. And when they gave the police department a grade A after they completed the presentation at 2 hours, that's what I was saying. I wasn't saying you were the harsh critic. I said they should be, rightly so, I said, are the harsher critics.
Thank you. And then we are here now to vote on supporting HB 16-22. We do not need to go through all of our things here. This is about the support of that. We have a first and a second on it. Alderman Savage, I'd like to vote on this. There's obviously a lot more debate ahead of us. Alderman Savage.
Okay, I'll just be brief. And just for the record, I mean, I certainly didn't mean any offense to anybody, but I do want to mention that I think it was on Wednesday last week when I requested this be drafted by the law office after seeing there was no mention of the county PAB bill on our agenda. This is after our agenda was released, the draft agenda. Second person I contacted was Alderman Gay, because I know he's very passionate about this issue, and we worked together on the last police ordinance we had. And that's it. I didn't contact anybody else because it was so late in the process. And this was after, the week before that, we received an email from the coalition with no response to them. And so I felt obligated to respond to the public on an important issue like this. As you know, I'm not necessarily known for this, but this is an issue that I care about, as I've tried to show. So given the timeline for everything, for us to, I felt I had to get this introduced for us to have a dialogue. So I'll just, I think I have my comments there. I'll save them for next time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So we have R-14-22 on first reader, just to get it onto the floor so it can be debated.
15.
Mr. Mayor, can I just say one? I just want to say one thing.
Sorry,
First of all, I appreciate everyone's comments tonight. I really do. And I think if this doesn't generate, this should generate more suggestions as to what we can do. I'm only one person. Yes, I'm your public safety chair. If I have disappointed you all in any way, I sincerely apologize tonight. If you think I'm not doing an adequate job, then please tell me. Obviously, there's some problems. But I had to say what I had to say. No disrespect meant. I think everything that I mentioned was truthful. I wasn't being dishonest. But if you think I was, then I apologize for that. But if you think I'm doing a poor job, then that's your opinion.
Thank you. That is definitely not in question. Okay, we're going to do a roll call on this, I think, Regina. All those in favor of R-15-22 on first reader, say aye. Roll call, please, Regina.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley? I'm sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Aye.
Roll call, Regina.
I'm going to do a roll call. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Gay? Okay.
Aye.
Okay. Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Alderwoman O'Neill?
Aye.
Alderman Pindell Charles?
No.
Okay. Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Shandelmeyer?
Aye on first reader.
And Alderman Arnett, I think I missed you. I'm sorry.
I said aye.
You got it.
I couldn't hear him. Thank you. So that R-15-22 passes.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Please present the next on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mayor, may I ask
that
what
you
the
refer
vote
to
was?
I think from my recollection, 1 abstain, 1 no, 7 yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can that be referred to Public Safety Committee?
Yes, thank you.
And rules, please.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Just for public hearing for next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-oh.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is R-16-22, filing a grant application with Maryland Transit Administration for the purpose of authorizing the city of Annapolis to file an application with MTA.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adopt R-16-22 on first reader?
So move.
Get a second? Thank you. All those in favor with a show of hands say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed say no.
Can that be referred to the Transportation Committee, please?
I think there is some urgency in this, so can I just get someone to speak to it? Regina, we're trying to get it included in our state, with the state so that we can apply for federal grants. Regina, do you want to elaborate? And then we'll go to Mr. City Manager.
The only thing that I wanted to say, Kwaku said it, there was a, we had to move it fast. So I'll let David speak to it.
Okay.
Is Acting Director Dua on the call, please?
No, sir.
No, he's not. Okay.
Josh Durat, are you saying? Who?
No. Kwaku. I was looking for Kwaku.
Okay, I do not see him, sorry.
Yeah, so there is a time limitation. I'm not sure what the date is exactly, but when Director Dua brought this forward, he said that this would need to be passed tonight in order to meet the deadline. So it's within the next 2 weeks that this has to be submitted. Again, this is just the application.
An application, Alderman Gay.
Gonna ask the same question I asked, I think 2 years ago when we submitted this at the last minute and they asked us to suspend the rules. Are the bus replacements on our, this is because this grant is for our existing transit route. This is not the downtown loop ferry or any others. Will they be electric?
I believe so, Mr. City Manager.
I believe so too. And I wish he was on the call because he knows that better. I think at least one of them is going to be electric, fully funded. And then the other one, we have that option, I believe, but we would have to share part of the cost. So one of them would be fully, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd love to learn a little more because there's also large urban fixed route services. So again, do we have the flexibility to change routes that would best meet the needs of our communities, or are we forced to stay with the existing routes that the state mandates based off of us receiving these grants. And so I'm a little conflicted here because I know that the grants require certain things, and particularly the routes and mandates on what buses can be purchased.
Ongoing stuff. Yeah, I guess I would just answer, and I think we do have that flexibility, but just keep in mind that as we talked with the Hillman Garage and the P3 about concerns about funding, this is the lion's share of the funding that we get for transit. And if we don't apply for this funding, we're not going to get it. So this would be a $2.4 million hole in the transit budget. So this is really important that this move forward. But I'll try and get an answer real quick on the flexibility of the transit routes.
Thank you, Alderman Savage. Then let's see any other hands.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it is frustrating. I mean, this has happened a couple of times where we've had these grant applications come forward. I mean, if we're so reliant on this funding is so important, why is this happening so last minute for us? We know we've had concerns in the past about where this money is going in terms of what kind of vehicles, and I know that Deputy City Manager Guile had mentioned at the last Environmental Matters Committee meeting that she had potentially had two large BGE electric buses they were willing to give us for a really good deal, $1 a year or something like that. So, if we do that, do we need to go and get all this money for 2 large diesel buses? There seems to be a lot we need to look into this, and I don't know if we can get an exact timeline. Maybe there's some other accommodation we could have. I don't know if the chair for transportation would be willing to schedule a special meeting or something to talk about this, but I'm a bit frustrated.
Mr. City Manager.
Director Dew is on the call now, so if we could bring him forward, please.
He's not here yet.
Okay, we'll go. Just email me that he is. So.
We're watching the screen.
We'll go to Alderman Chandemeyer, then we'll come back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going to triple the frustration on the delay on this. But I will say that even traditional buses provided do provide a better environmental option than personal automobile use due to space saving, and they do have a lower greenhouse gas emissions than most personal cars. So.
Thank you. Is the director on yet? Acting director? Nope.
No.
Okay. Well, we do have the ability. This is just the application process. There will be opportunities to reject the money if we don't want it. Is that right, Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, if we get it, it'll be a supplemental appropriation unless it's included in the regular budget. So either way, the council will have to appropriate the money.
So there is opportunities. I have talked to Kwaku. I definitely know he is applying for the money for electric buses, at least one. So we just want to put that out there with everyone. If he is not going to come forward, I would like a motion to suspend the rules. Did you want to add anything, Director Dickinson?
I was just going to say, I know the deadline is sometime at the end of March, and this will be a part of your FY23 budget process. So you will see this in the form of their operating budget and the grants related to that. So you could talk in more detail about what they're going to do with the funds at that time. It's just there's a deadline for the application.
Thank you, Director Dickinson. Would anyone move a motion to suspend the rules? Is that?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Alderman Finlayson on discussion.
Yes, my question is for Ms. Dickinson. Does this mean that we will have the funding by the end of June, in essence, or earlier, to be able to include in our 23 budget?
So as we develop the 23 budget for the transportation fund, this is these grants are part of the funding sources then. But as with all grant funding sources, the money comes to us after we ask for reimbursement. So we typically do that on a quarterly basis for the transportation grants. And as we purchase a vehicle, we will ask for the reimbursement for it after the purchase has been done. That's typical.
So the granting will be done prior to put in our budget?
Yeah, we will have the award in hand as we're doing the budget.
Okay, great, thank you. So Mr. Mayor, did you get a second on?
We did get a second. I thought that was you, Alderman Turney.
Oh, okay, we're on second. Just a quick question. I'm trying to find it, but Jody, do you have, what percent of the transportation operating budget is this roughly?
So this is, it's this for 3 million. I think their budget is around 5 million, I recall. So it's better than half of their budget. But without the specific numbers, I can't give you a specific percent. But
I just want to put it in perspective.
It's more than half.
Okay.
And we will also be using some ARPA funding next year, probably for them with the lack of the parking revenues coming in during the building of the garage.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All those in favor, with a show of hands, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, say no.
Abstain.
So that means we can't do it. Is that right, Regina?
That is correct.
Okay, so let records show Alderman Savage abstained. Anybody else was a no? Alderman Gay was a no. Thank you.
Abstention.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, you do have a motion in the second to approve this on first reader.
We already did.
Oh, okay.
Did you take that vote yet? I don't think we took that vote yet.
So I apologize, everybody. We have a motion, the second, to approve it on first reader. The money that we can reject if we don't want it. All those in favor?
And first reader will send it.
So on first reader, I'm going to get a first and a second to get it on the floor, and then I'll go to you. Can I get a motion? We've got a motion for that already. Is that right?
So moved.
Yes. In a second.
Did we do that vote already, Virginia?
Yeah, we had.
I didn't hear.
Okay, sorry.
Alderman Gay made the.
Okay, we're going to do.
Great. Sorry about that, Mr. Mayor. Okay, we're good. We can go to the next one.
We can vote or not?
No, we're good.
We need an all in favor on first reader.
Okay, all in favor of this, supporting this on first reader, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yes. All those opposed, say no. Thank you, Regina.
And one more thing, Alderwoman O'Neill requested that this go to the Transportation Committee, and that I did note that.
Okay, remember this is time sensitive. Thank you, Alderman O'Neill. Okay.
Dr. Duwa's on, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. City Attorney, are we past this now or?
Technically, yes.
Well, everybody's been talking. You should join in.
You can take it to the end of the agenda.
If you could just give us your 2 cents, please, Kwaku. Thank you. And explain to us why we're doing this now.
Sure. Yeah, I did hear some of the concerns from Alderman Gay and Alderman Savage in terms of the
Kwaku, can you explain?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why there's an echo. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. There's no echo on this side. If you.
Can't hear.
We can't. Are you speaking? We can't hear you now.
Okay. I am speaking now.
Yeah, we heard that first part.
Okay.
Yep. Continue.
Okay. The money we are asking for vehicles, the cost information comes from MDOT itself.
Okay. And how long ago did you know about this, Director Dua?
Say it again.
How long ago did you have this information? Just to let the council know. The agenda was published a week ago, so those questions could have been asked during the week as well. But why are we in this position now where we need to suspend the rules, please? Can you
hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah. Can you explain to us why we're in a position now to have to suspend the rules? If you break up a little bit, I'll go to Director General. City Manager General.
Sure. We did start the application back in January. However, there are several pieces of information that we need to put it together. So the last piece of information that I got was late last week. So once I got that information, I did send it out to the city manager that because the deadline is approaching, we'd like to get this on the fast track so that we can submit the application. So this is just the filing of application. I did hear about the vehicle replacement. Currently, we do have some money for one electric bus. This is your regular grant. So we do have basically the operating grant, which helps pay for salaries and benefits and supplies. And then we have the capital grant. The capital grant currently, the way that is structured is that we look at the vehicle that you have, and based upon that, MDOT actually gives you the cost information for that. So that is based upon the current available funding that they think they will get. That doesn't mean that we cannot use the grant to add money to it to buy an electric bus, as I did hear Alderman Savage. So whatever that we ask, whatever that we get, the city can add to that. For instance, we do have money for one vehicle that David is aware that the city is looking into getting more funds to be able to buy that. So what we have currently is not for the price of one battery electric bus, because now the price is around $650,000. We do not have that kind of information in the grant application. Again, the grant application comes with vehicle cost information that we use. That does not mean that once you get your capital grant, you cannot buy it. You can, but you have to add more money to it.
Thank you. So I think that clarifies that you only got the last information from the state a week ago. You got it to us as soon as possible. We had a motion on the floor. It's been accepted on first reader. We'll just have to follow that process. Alderman Savage.
And just to go, this is the application packet, and we put this all together. So it takes a while, and we have to make sure that we have the correct information so that it is not sent back to us.
Thank you, Director Doe. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When is the deadline?
The deadline is March 25th, or prior to that.
Prior to March 23rd.
25 is the latest date that you have.
And our next meeting isn't until the 28th. All right.
And I should say again, as David did explain, this is just the filing of the application. There is no grant award, there is nothing. So once you file the application and they process it, if you have an award, you get a letter. There is also an agreement, and that again comes back to council. And then council determine whether they will accept the grant or not. So this is just the first step in the process.
Thank you, Acting Director Doe. Alderman Arnett hasn't spoken all night. How you doing?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Based on the new information, I would like to make a motion that we suspend the rules.
I'll second that.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Alderman O'Neill, would you like to discuss this? Your hand is up.
I was going to ask for the same thing, to make a motion to suspend the rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we okay to do that, Regina? Yep, Mr. City Attorney. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to suspend the rules on this.
Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, Alderman Gay.
Yes, just for clarity, because the date has really no relevance at this point to me. For the $2.4 million that we receive in fixed route transit operations, Director Kwaku, can you explain, would that have any impact on how we draw out existing or future routes? For example, are we bound by this grant to the current and existing bus routes?
If you're talking about the bus route, no. The bus route, as you may recall, every 5 years, we actually do a major review of the entire bus system, from bus routes to operations and any recommendations. But the last one was done, I believe, in 2020. But if there is a need to make adjustment to that, as you may recall, in our last transit development plan, there was a proposal to do a pilot project with the orange route, which is still under consideration. If you have any recommendation that you wanted to take a look at in terms of how we will actually redo our routing, you are welcome to do that. You can do that at any time, and that goes to council for final approval. All that we need to do is to inform the MTA about our intent in terms of route changes. The most important thing is to make sure that we do not disenfranchise the low-income people. Because of that, whatever route changes that we do, we have to do what is called a 36 analysis to make sure that the impact or the negative impact does not disproportionately affect the minorities. That's all that we need to do.
Yeah, it would be great to have, I know you said the study was just done in 2020. It'd be great to maybe have that reanalyzed. Obviously, everybody complains about the bus routes because they seem to be ineffective. I've had an opportunity to sit on tours with staff on both the brown, red, and I think gold or yellow routes. And they need additional support. The replacement of the 2 transit buses, for clarity, again, the $737,296. Half of that will be used for an electric vehicle. The other half will be used for a replacement of a traditional diesel vehicle.
Now, it's up to the city. We can actually use the grants for the 2 battery electric buses. However, given the amount of the grant, the city has to come out with much more money. Actually, I do have an estimate of what the city will need to get an electric bus with the requested grant. If we are looking at,
I guess just in general, so we can use these grant dollars of the $737, those grant dollars can be used for our existing transit systems conversion to electric. I'm not speaking. Okay, awesome. That's all. Yeah, because I'm not really too concerned about the downtown area because I feel like they'll have enough with VIA and all of this stuff going on. Okay, thank you so much, Director. That's all I needed.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to suspend the rules on R-16-22. All those in favor with show of hands say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed say no. Are there any no's, Regina? Thank you, City Council. Do we need a motion now? Roll call, I think, on that. Is that right, Regina? Okay, we can move on. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. Can I get a motion to move this on second reader?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Could I get a second? Thank you.
Second.
All those you need a roll call? Thank you. Yes.
This I can abstain from.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is legislative actions on second reader, beginning with O3821, illicit discharges and connections stormwater.
A motion to adopt O-38-21 on second reader.
So moved. Second.
I see a Savage amendments, 1 to 15 here.
Can
you move those and walk us through? Can I get a second? Or
I'll move amendment, Savage amendments 1 through 15.
Thank you. Okay. Can you talk us through them, Alderman Savage? From the top?
Yeah, these are they're nothing substantial. A lot of them are just corrections, clarifications, and worked with these with the Director of Public Works. I took out a few after discussions with him, but these are things that we ended up coming together on, and the Environmental Matters Committee did recommend favorably.
Thank you. Could I just ask you, is this the grading permit revoked? Is that
no? So the IDD program, is illicit discharge detection and elimination. So it deals with, storm drains are only supposed to carry storm water and not anything else. And so this deals with if there is some kind of instance of pollution entering into our pipes, like a sewer system that isn't supposed to be connected, or laundry, or some pollutant from an industrial site, and not just our pipes, but also our streams. So this just it's a federal requirement. And so this just, this for the most part follows the federal model code.
Thank you, Alderman Savage. So we have a motion to amend O-38-21. Any other discussion? If not, we will take a vote. Alderman Finlayson.
Yes, I think I'm seeing this correctly. Amendment 5, Alderman Savage, is there a typo in the correction?
No, I'd have to look up exactly what this was worded, what this was.
It looks like the word ordinance is misspelled.
Oh, you're right. Yes, it looks like it is. The correction is not correct. All right. So there should, Regina, could we get that? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Of course, from the English teacher. Thank you.
Of course, I'm sorry. Hazard of the profession. What can I say?
Okay, all those in favor with, are you voting, Alderman Arnett, or question?
I just wanted to say, we often hear our staff criticized. I think this was something where Director Johnson noticed a deficiency in the staff and on his own drafted up this resolution, this correction, which I think is a very important correction. And I think we should applaud his efforts for picking this up and getting it put into legislation.
Thank you. Okay. All those in favor, with a show of hands, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say no. Is there a motion to vote on whether the amendments to O38-21 are substantive? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt O-38-21 as amended on second reader?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
With a show of hands, all those in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against say no. Is there a motion to adopt O-38-21 on third reader?
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
Second.
You, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Yeah.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendel Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
And Alderman Shannon-Meyer.
Aye.
And that ordinance passes.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is O-4021, Capital Budget and Capital Improvement Program 100% Electric Mobility Plan.
A motion to adopt O-40-21 on second reader.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, we have amendments proposed by Tierney, Finlayson, and O'Neill to O-40-21. Who would like to speak to those and move them, please?
I'll move them, amendments 1 and 2 together.
1 and 2.
Second.
Thank you. And who would like to speak to it? I think we're going to let them elaborate and then go to you, Alderman Shannon-Meyer. Is that okay? Thank you.
It's pretty simple. If you look at the first reader, there's no mention of specificity of Fifth Street or just the comprehensive plan. So we amended the Appendix A in the project description to strike any reference to Fifth Street. And then in Amendment 2, we inserted the word comprehensive plan and a comma followed by including a traffic and parking analysis. There was much testimony in regard to why don't we have a plan first? And there was so much emphasis on a plan. And so we wanted to just reinforce that by adding this language about it being a comprehensive plan to study the whole mobility at once, specifically the water mobility, the infrastructure, see if Fifth Street is feasible, et cetera. And then address the traffic and parking analysis if Fifth Street is a place to load and unload, and so that's what that does. So it doesn't pigeonhole it to Fifth Street, and the emphasis on having a plan.
Thank you.
Karma, does Alderman O'Neill or Alderwoman Finlayson want to add anything to that?
Alderman Finlayson.
We covered it.
No.
No. Okay. Alderman Shannon-Meyer was next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is it possible to have them voted on separately? Because 1 is an amendment I think is good. 2 is an amendment I have very strong opinions against.
Okay. Are you okay with that, Alderman Tierney?
Sure. Of course.
Okay. We're still on discussion, and we'll just stay with 1. Alderman Savage.
Oops. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So first of all, I just want to, is this just on the amendments or the entire legislation?
Well, I think you could speak broadly. Yeah.
Okay. So, first of all, I just want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your putting this out there. This is it's an exciting idea, and I think it will help move the bar forward, not only for Annapolis, but beyond in terms of making this transition. And, as I think you've said at some of these committees, it takes, we can't do that without a little bit of risk. And I think I know what I've been telling some folks is that I would like to bring this up at Environmental Matters as we go along. If we get some updates from the administration or whoever is working on this, just to make sure everybody is up to date on what's going on. And I think that'll help improve comfort level from everybody. One question I do have is I saw that the Maritime Advisory Board released their document. They didn't take a up or down on it, but they did have some suggestions. But I'm wondering if you, not to put you on the spot, Mr. Mayor, but do you have any, or maybe the city manager, can their concerns be addressed through the built-in planning process that's already described in the CIP?
City manager?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what their concerns were, but certainly the study is going to address all facets of the project. So, and I think the word comprehensive was a good word to add, because I'll go through the 4 important things that we're going to look at. One is a demand study. So what kind of demand do we expect for there to be to ride these buses and to ride the ferry? The second is, how do we handle the traffic, the additional traffic that's going to be generated, and where are they going to park? The third is the infrastructure and O&M costs and demands for this service. And the last is the equity piece, which Alderwoman Pendel-Charles asked that we include, and we think that that's important too, is to make sure that there's an equity piece to this. So I'm not sure if any of those, all of them are address the concerns of the Maritime Board, but those are the things we're going to really delve into when we're doing the study.
I'd like to say, Alderman Savage, tomorrow I'm taking 1 or 2 councillors to Baltimore to the factory that builds the electric ferries that are in Baltimore. I think it's a Kevin Plank initiative. So we will be open to any ideas as we move through the process.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I wasn't in my bunker here, I would join you. But just kidding. So yeah, thank you, City Manager. I think looking through the comments from the advisory board, I think a lot of them revolved around the U.S. Coast Guard. I'm sure that'll be looked at their requirements during that process. And they mentioned some concerns with I guess certain things to factor in to look at for the potential stops. And so, I think they also looked at, and I know the mayor's already spoken to this before, as engaging some of our existing water taxi operators to see how they can be part of the process. I just want to make sure since they put together this report, that we did acknowledge their work on this.
And I will be making that trip to Baltimore with Jake, the owner of Watermark Cruises. So we definitely see that as an integral part of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
And we've actually already reached out to the Coast Guard and started that conversation on what their requirements are going to be.
And we had the head of the Coast Guard here for the Alex Haley. So we have a relationship at the very top, which I think is good for the city. And we have all eyes on us with our federal partners on this one. Thank you. Alderman Gay.
Thank you. My first question is the expectation that tonight this will be passed on third reader?
It is.
Okay. So with the amendments from Finlayson and Tierney, will there be a study done prior to spending? Or is that just verbiage to make it, to say that, yes, we did a comprehensive study beforehand?
Mr. City Manager.
I'm not sure how to answer that. So we are absolutely positively going to do a comprehensive study to understand all of the aspects of this. And that's going to include how best to source the electric ferry. So until that study sort of informs that decision on what's the best boat to buy, there won't be any of the boat money spent. But we feel like when we're reaching out to these companies and talking to them about potentially either purchasing one of their boats or having them do the design and build for a new boat, that it's better to have money in our back pocket that we can tell them this is actually a funded initiative that's going to move forward. So that's what we talked about in some of the committee meetings is this helps give us leverage when we're having those discussions on the boat purchase.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was the finance committee meeting I was sitting in on, and they stated that it would have to go through like a traditional RFP process where it would go out for bids and a selection would basically have to take place, correct?
Yeah, the only way we wouldn't is if somehow this was determined to be the only one that's available or the one that's most advantageous to the city. But we need to look into that and see what else is out there and what's available before that decision could be made.
Okay, and so for the public, you know, that because everybody has had a lot of input on this, I am supportive that now there is a study that appears to be on the horizon. I would encourage the public to inquire about the progress of that over the next few months, and particularly with the city manager's office. And no funds will be spent until said study and RFP is done. So there is a process which makes me feel comfortable. And you did mention that there would be input from existing water taxi businesses, i.e. Watermark. Will they be operating? Is made clear in this plan that there is an 18-month turnaround period if you were to select, well, regardless, anywhere we go, we'd have to be 12 months at minimum waiting for a boat. So will they be operating what you believe is this route from 5th Street to the downtown area in the meantime?
We believe that's the best course. I don't know if you think that we should bid that as well or put that out in RFP.
I think that would be great too, considering they're in this business and that's kind of what they do. So I'm comfortable. I think the kind of concerns have been handled.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
This is
Journey?
Okay. Is this the only? Is it okay? Just a question.
So we're on Amendment 1. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought I could ask. I thought it was general discussion.
Sure.
I was just going to ask some specifics on the equipment line item. I surveyed my constituencies this morning. I actually did a Survey Monkey, and the consensus was support overall for this ordinance, but the Achilles heel was what exactly are we spending on the boat? And I understand that it is of the $330,000 equipment acquisition, $30,000 of that is a deposit for the boat, and the rest is held for the remainder payment, or is that for anything else? I want to make sure I'm correct in the commitment for the boat.
It could be, it will be a refundable deposit if we go there. So we're going to make sure that we don't make any purchases until we know that there are not better alternatives in America. My belief is Europeans are way ahead of us on this technology, but that's to be determined. So that process will be an open process, and nothing will be purchased. If I don't pull the grants down, and I promised the City Council that I would make sure that this ferry was 100% funded as part of this larger plan. We have the state look into grant us money. We have $250,000 already promised from the county. This is a shared experiment. And then we will also, I believe strongly, we'll get federal transportation money as well, because it's an innovative plan. And I want to thank the council for supporting me on us on trying to do something different and making Annapolis a leader, not only in the state, but I believe in the country. So thank you.
Just one other thing. I think there's not an understanding. There's been so much emphasis on 5th Street, et cetera, but isn't it your intention that this ferry will have access to what has not been accessed before, as far as other locations, perhaps Hawkins Cove, or are there, isn't that part of the overall concept?
Our intent is to start on one fixed route and then work out what how we want to move forward. So we truly believe that's a possibility as we develop. And I truly see this as an equity piece, because even if it just leaves from 5th Street, that is in Eastport, there are many people who are not lucky enough to have a mum or a dad who has a boat, or a friend or a family member that has a boat. But anyone can get on this boat, rich or poor, in their neighborhood of Eastport, and go across the downtown. So, or come from the top of Main Street and get on a ferry for free and be on the water. This is true water access here. It is true and truly an experiment. It is a thing that we can grow together as a council. So I just thank you for giving us a chance.
And I'm going to push it and ask one last question. There's some also concern, and I just want to address it publicly, that when we put money towards one line item in the budget, it actually takes from another. This particular situation, we're taking it from a capital reserve from fiscal year 2022. We have the funds available. We're not taking it away from sidewalks or police. I just want to sort of steer that away from that concept. I mean, that it's a different thing for fiscal year 2023, but the fact that we're allocating from capital reserve from 2022, I think we could make that statement that we're not taking it away from anything. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, and I want to thank you for bringing that up, because people conflate where we get money from. There is money available for public transport. There is money available for public safety. If you see the lead grant that we just pulled down that was on the front page of the Capitol Day, there is money for multiple things, and you can't conflate those just because we apply for a bunch of money that is not eligible because it's in a transportation category. It's not eligible for public safety. We're not taking something away to pay for something else. We work on all those things in unison, and anybody that watches the City Council knows how many different issues that we all deal with, and we work on just as hard on every issue in this city because we care about this city. So you can't cross over money. So you can talk about money that goes for sidewalks or roads, has nothing to do with money that could be for public transport, or nothing to do with money that could be for public safety.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me the time.
Thank you. Alderman Pendell Charles, then Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make one comment concerning this. We've gotten a lot of emails concerning the ferry, and what I have consistently said as your public safety chair, that there's a nexus between what we offer, experiences and opportunities to our children, and this is one of them, that I will more than likely support those things that do provide opportunities and experiences for children that steer them away from crime. I think tonight has proven the state of our public safety address that I made tonight. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did have a quick question. The operation cost of this, assuming that we do find a boat, will that be covered? I hope not through expenses from our transit fund. How will that be covered?
We can cover it from money from the $70 million plan that we have for City Dock and the garage, a mobility plan that we have for 14 months. At the end of 14 months, then we can review the information if there's enough information, and then decide whether this was a good idea or not. I think that we're not just looking at this as a ferry, we're also looking at it as a replacement for our harbour master's boat. If we didn't like the transportation piece and we didn't think we could cover the cost of it, we could move it towards our fleet at the harbour master, remembering that I promised to get it paid for. So then we would be leading the country in moving our harbour master to an all electric fleet.
So in an initial year, we'll use concession and then review and establish a plan moving forward. Okay.
Yes. Alderman Schneidermeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we start this project and decide it's no longer feasible, we can always sell the boat, right?
Yes.
Cool.
Thank you. Okay, we've moved amendment number 1. We're going to vote on them separately. All those in favour of amendment number 1 with a show of hands, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Can we move amendment number 2, Alderman Tierney? You're muted.
I move amendment 2. I've already spoke to it.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, Alderman Schneidermeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is going to be my, there's an echo, sorry. Just want to point out that several of the academic and transportation studies literature have shown that traffic studies and parking analyses are nonsense and don't really show the dynamic behavior of humans in cities. I'm quoting Confessions of a Recovering Engineer by Chuck Marone, Walkable City by Jeff Speck, Street Fight Handbook for an Urban Revolution by Jeanette Sadiq Khan, and finally Street Smart by Samuel Schwartz. Just so everybody knows, when I say these things, I have academic backing.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, with a show of hands, all those in favour say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no.
No.
Thank you, Alderman Schneidermeyer. Okay. A motion to vote on whether any of these amendments are substantive. Thank you, Alderman Gay.
No kidding.
No? Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt O-40-21 as amended on second? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor with a show of hands, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt O-40-21 on third reader?
Moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. Alderman Arnett's hand go up there. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Gay? Hello?
You're frozen, Alderman Gay.
Aye. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill? Alderwoman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
And Alderman Schneidermeyer.
Aye.
And that ordinance passes.
Thank you, everybody. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is 0422 on second reader, aggressive panhandle.
Is there a motion to adopt O-44-22 on second reader?
So moved.
So moved.
In a second. Thank you. Could we move the amendments, the Tyranny, Gay, O'Neill, and Charles amendments, please? Who would like to take the lead on that?
I'll move that amendment number 1.
And before I go to that, sorry, I didn't see Alderman Savage's hand up. We have first and second. Alderman Savage, did you have something to say before they move the amendments?
I can wait.
Okay. Alderman Tyranny, are you moving the amendments?
Yeah. The
amendment, sorry.
Yeah, amendment, isn't it just 1? Yes. Yeah, it's just amendment 1. So aggressive panhandling was always delineated in the code as unlawful, and the objective of this legislation was for it to be charged as a misdemeanor. And as such, we clearly had to define what that is. And in looking at the code, the definition of aggressive panhandling was quite discriminatory in a way. And so we defined it. Who's talking? It's echoes. So basically we defined it as when a person feels threatened and crossed out about, half a dozen of the descriptions and left the most important was that, would cause a reasonable person to fear for his or her safety, which was the genesis of aggressive panhandling. So I want to thank the committee, the Public Safety Committee, for bringing that up. It was really
we didn't get a clear second on this, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry.
Oh.
I thought I had a second.
Second.
Okay, Alderman Gay has his hand up.
I think both Alderman Savage and O'Neill.
Who would like to? Okay, Alderman Savage.
We need people to turn their mics off. We're getting a lot of fuzz.
Sheila, I think it's coming from you.
Just a technical question for the law office. So it's on the page, let's see, page 2, it strikes fine and puts penalties. I'm just curious why there's that switch.
Where are you at? Page 2, strike
2, line 15.
Insert a period after safety.
I'm just used to seeing fines. I'm just curious about penalties.
I'm sorry, if you could direct me, because I'm looking at the amendment. Or should I be looking at the amendment or the bill?
I'm sorry, the bill, the ordinance.
Okay. All right, I've got the bill open. Which part are you referring to?
Page 2, line 15.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because this particular bill or this particular legislation doesn't have a fine associated with it. So if you're aggressively panhandling somebody, they're not writing you a ticket for $10. It's actually a penalty, which was never in the code before. So we're trying to bring everything together as an arrestable offense, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Gay?
Alderman O'Neill? Alderwoman O'Neill? No question? Okay. Yeah, I appreciate the cooperation from Tierney, Pendell, Charles, and O'Neill on the amendment. We had an opportunity to discuss this in public safety, and I thought it was important to just specify what, the aggressive panhandling definition was. To that point, however, I will abstain because of the key word that was just mentioned, which I still think is a problem, which is arresting. And so one of the things that we talked about in public safety that can't be stated in the legislation was that the officers will divert from arrest to provide services, because typically if you're aggressively panhandling, there's a reason for that, whether it be addiction, homelessness, and so forth. And so I said abstain, I meant to say vote yes. Because of the amendment and because of the help of Carrie Berger and the chief of police, and saying that, no, we won't arrest, we'll try to provide alternatives, which is important.
Thank you, Alderman Gay. I see Alderwoman Pindell-Charles is the only hand up. Alderman Pindell-Charles.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Gay, to your point, I guess two things. Number one, the LEAD program is now available. So that's something maybe that we can work on when it comes to an aggressive panhandler. And the other thing is the litany of organizations that I listed. One of them or two of them could be helpful to add, to assist a person who is found to be aggressively panhandling. What do you think?
I think that's great. A great resource, absolutely.
That's why I gave the state of address tonight, sir.
Thank you. Okay, we have these moved, the attorney amendments moved. All those in favor with a show of hands, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Is there a motion to vote on whether the amendments are substantive? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt O-4-22 as amended on second reader?
So moved. So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor with a show of hands, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt O-4-22 on third reader?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Please call the roll.
Sir Mayor Buckley,
Yes.
Alderman Gay,
Yes.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Aye.
Alderwoman Pindell-Charles,
Aye, and thank Alderwoman Tierney for the amendment.
Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
and Alderman Chandler-Meyer.
Aye.
Okay, that ordinance passes.
Right. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Sir, the next item on the agenda is 0822, alcoholic beverages, the Market House.
Is there a motion to adopt O-8-22 on second reader?
So moved.
Thank you. Could I get a second?
Second.
Okay. Alderman Savage has his hand up.
Yeah, so I saw that there's a report from the alcohol board, but it says that our own alcohol beverage control board took no action on this matter to allow time to review the Market House lease, and they said that this matter will be placed on a future ABCB agenda. So I apologize to the sponsor. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this, but I'm wondering if we might want to postpone this to give them time to review.
Well, thank you for the question. I may be wrong, but this was always subject to their review and approval or rejection. And I thought I would let it go to vote today only because it is enabling legislation. It is the first step. That's probably a risk, but I think at least the legislation is set that then they can vote and let's, see what happens. It was always subject to their review. And I believe that they are split right now and they're going to be looking for another member and they will then vote on it. And so therefore this legislation will be in place for them to do that.
So you mean they'll be voting on actually approving this for the Market House, I guess, or granting that?
Yeah, when they have a quorum, I guess.
Okay.
You, Alderman Gay.
It says Market House premises. Does that include the exterior? It's not explicitly stating that it has to be inside. So does that mean that you can be out on the front brick area.
I would assume their licensed area in their license, which would be outside. Yeah.
Okay, I don't mind that. I think that's great for the city. I'm just asking.
Thank you.
Yeah, they have a license. I mean, yes, would be. There's sidewalk. Okay.
All right. I'm gonna abstain. Alderman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you. My question is a clarification. They do have to go back for the AAC board to get a change of their current liquor license. So currently their liquor licenses would be wine. So this act will, as Ms. Kearney said, it's simply enabling legislation that lets them go back and get a different type of license. So thank you.
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay. As I said, I'm abstaining. All those in favor with a show of hands say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt O-8-22 on third reader?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam City Clerk, please call roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Abstain.
Okay. Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Aye.
And Alderman Shamrock.
Aye.
Okay, that ordinance passes.
Thank you all. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
It is completed, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Is there anything else for good order? Alderman Gay has his hand up, and then Alderman Tierney, then Alderman Pendle Charles. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. First is Takia's birthday, or tomorrow, I think, the 15th. Either or. She is a Pisces, and there's her birthday, so make sure we all wish her happy birthday for the hard work she does for us. Second, I also did want to shout out Mike Johnson in the Department of Public Works. I'm working with a resident on Marta and Tyler due to some parking issues and traffic stuff. And I've reached out to them to paint the curbs on Monday, and it was done by like Tuesday. Then my constituent messaged me back. He said if a feather could have pushed him over. He was so happy. So thank them for that. And then lastly, on March the 3rd, the county sent out an email stating that they were receiving $31 million over 18 years from a opioid lawsuit. Is the city involved in that? And will we maybe get some trickle down? I'm assuming we're going Reagan style. We'll get the crumbs from that.
We will get the crumbs. We had our own lawsuit, but we will get money from it. And you could definitely circle back around with the city manager on that. So, and we will dedicate that money. We've already spent the money. You know how much it's cost the city in our response to that.
That's going to be huge. That's exciting.
Thank you. Was it Ellie next? Sorry.
Yeah, just two things. Just going back to the aggressive panhandling legislation, I just want to reiterate that being homeless is not a crime. And I just, I never really liked the optics of that legislation, but just want to stress that, being homeless is not a crime. And there are a lot of homeless. We know who they are, and we do everything we can to help them. The second thing is, to my friend Alderman Arnett, you've been awfully quiet. So I just want you to say something, or else Ron's going to give her speech again.
Not feeling very well. Thank you for inquiring.
All right.
He'll be fired up once we get back to McGarvey's, right, Alderman Arnett?
That's what it is, yeah.
I've got some oysters booked with him this week too, I think.
It's Oyster Week. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Alderman Pendle Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have another another 35-minute speech. Can I give it now? Is that a no?
Move, we adjourn.
I'll prepare one for the next time.
You're still writing it down.
I'll have one the next time.
Okay, we have a first and a second to adjourn the meeting, and so we don't have to vote on extending it past 11 o'clock. All those in favor with a show of hands, I say thank you and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Good night.